It's starting. I can feel it. Oh my god. All right. Hello. Is this live? I think it probably is. Welcome to a post-Mythicist Milwaukee hangout stream. We've got Chrisiousity. We have got Cult of Dusty, Messianic Messiah, Michael Rowlands, and Vadim Newquist. And me. Did I say your name wrong? And Burrito. You said you were going to turn off your camera while you were eating.
You started talking about how watching people eat where it was your perv. So.
I requested it specifically. Yes, I'm into it. Sorry,
you two go off and have a hang up by yourselves.
My camera. I fear it will be gross.
Okay, so Michael said that we should catch up in some way because we haven't hung out for quite a while. So, okay, Michael, do your catch up thing now. Go.
So everyone else just be quiet while me and Tim talk. So how's the wife? How's the cat?
She's good. He's fluffy and well fed. He just jumped out the window to chase another cat, which was hilarious. So he.
Oh, okay. So
the funniest thing. Kid.
What's that?
His cat.
I thought he was asking about your kid at first. I was like,
my kid just jumped out a window to fight another kid. Yeah.
It is upper hard after all. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about you, Michael. If you've been traveling around the world and you're like this explorer now or something.
Can I just share the funniest thing that's ever happened to me, and then I'll be done.
Sure.
So so at the camp that I work at, there's a theater between my cabin, where I sleep, and then the recreational hall where I work, right? And so the morning I was walking from my cabin to my place of work, and I walked through the theater, and there was a chipmunk sitting on the stage, right? But it didn't see me, and because it was the morning, I had like a bit of a cough going on, so I coughed, and the chipmunk obviously heard that, and it freaked the fuck out. It jumped like 4 feet in the air, and then it landed on its feet, and then did that kind of cartoon running thing where it tried to run, but it couldn't get any traction, so it was like, blah, 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 and then it sprinted off. It was the fucking most hilarious cartoonish thing that's ever happened to me in real life, and I'm sad that I didn't get it on camera.
If you'd filmed it, yeah, you could have made it into a GIF or a meme of some kind.
Yeah, it would have gone viral instantly, I tell you.
Fail. Okay, so are we sufficiently caught up or no?
I think so, yeah. I think so, yeah.
Okay, it's good to hear about your squirrel and all that kind of thing.
It was a chipmunk, not a squirrel, yeah.
Whatever, same diff. So, I guess, yeah, we're here to talk about Mythicist Milwaukee, so I'm not sure how to really start with that. How about just general impressions about Mythicist Milwaukee?
Circle jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
I was great. Who
should we start with? How about Chrisiousity? Haven't heard from you. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. My general impression, and I think people knew that I had mixed emotions about going there. I had a really good time. I still have mixed emotions, and I think, I'm not sure if it was the right thing to do or not the right thing to do, but I think that in the end, I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad I gave it a shot, and
well, actually, that was one thing I wanted to ask you, because I know you, and I'm not sure if maybe you, but I know Michael, at least last year, was very much like, oh, this conference is a bunch of bullshit, and they're just enabling, toxic anti-SJW, Kyrgyzstan, fucking, Trump enablers and everything. But then has something changed because now that you've been to the conference, you feel like it's different in some way, or no?
I do think, I think that, and don't take this the wrong way, but the Mythcon people, to me, they look upon dialogue as an almost religious fix-all. Like, if we could just talk to each other, it would all somehow get worked out, and everything would be fixed, and things would be better. And I don't entirely agree with that.
Like, oh my God! Like, after 2 years, after you talked to me about Donald Trump, I suddenly realized that he is a total garbage fire. Wow, I'm not MAGA anymore. Like, I don't know if it really works that way.
I'm not against the idea of dialogue, and I'm not against the idea of people talking, obviously, but I think that you have to be very careful about how you do it and the way that you go about it, especially if you're talking about ideas and concepts that can really hurt people in the real world. Like a lot of the time when people talk about, well, it's just different opinions, you know, why do you hate Lord Southern? Because of her different opinion. Like, no, some different opinions come with a body count.
But so
some different opinion will hurt people. And so I think that if you're willing to sort of put that forward and say that, like, look, this has real consequences for real people. We're not just dicking around. You know, if a group like Quillette that likes to platform eugenicists, actual fucking eugenicists, right? And have them write articles about how terrible people on the left are because they're mean and they're SJWs and they don't want to platform us. I think you also have to be honest and upfront about why and the actual real world consequences should these ideas start to be put into practice.
But just on that question again, so what do you say to people who say, like, oh, you enabled the shitlord sphere by showing up and like legitimizing them and all that kind of thing? Because there are those criticisms from the left, right?
Absolutely. And I think that there are part of that can be true. I think I came out pretty hard. I think I came out swinging. I don't think I gave anybody any easy passes. And so, I mean, to me, it's the difference between letting them have this platform to just bash the left and not having anybody speak up, or coming in there and trying to come in hard. And my other thought was, I'm so small. I'm nobody. You know, who gives a shit? Like, I'm not giving them.
Who gives a shit about anybody on YouTube? I mean, seriously.
Well, but a lot of people do. Let me tell you, people give a shit about roaming millennial. Okay, I found that out.
Like some sort of PR. She's like a TV star, isn't she? No.
Yeah. So, like, there are people who give a shit about those people, but I bring nothing. Like, I don't bring cachet. I don't bring hordes of followers.
The Chrisiousity crew wasn't in the audience. Like Chrisiousity.
Yeah, TMM and Brittany Simon. They were the crew.
I think it's important to note as well, like the sort of environment that they have created. You know, you talk about they're thinking that dialogue. You know, if only we could get together and we could talk about this kind of thing, but they kind of discount the environment that this hostile environment that they have created, where, you know, people aren't going to want to come and discuss. I mean, even for like me, I mean, I'm a cis passing white dude who, you know, I can sit on the panel and talk or whatever. And, you know, against someone like Roaming, you know, Roaming sitting on the other side, and all she has to do is go, whoa, like this. And the whole audience is like, yeah, woo, good point, whatever. So you, it's very much a dog pile when you get into that situation, and it creates a very difficult dynamic for having a quote unquote open discussion with these people, you know?
Yeah. Because I was saying
what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Oh no, well, I was going to go, like, do I go to Vadim or do I go to Dusty? Because you guys just
well, actually, I'd like you to go to Dusty.
Mr. Naik, Messiah man. He's talking there. I'm not moderating too well, so okay, Dusty.
Can you hear me?
Just T.
Tim.
Just call.
Sure.
Can I just make the comment that Dusty and T, like, they look like brothers or like twins or something right now?
Messianic kind of looks like a younger Dusty, but
Can anyone hear me?
I don't want to get on the.
We can hear you. Yes.
Bashing Dusty.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get an answer to that question a few times. I would actually like you to go to Dusty first, because I'm curious if Dusty,
I think we should go to Dusty. I think we should go to Dusty. Yep.
Yeah, I have a question for Dusty. If he had a chance to watch the panel that I was on with Armored Skeptic and Jacqueline, and your impressions, if you did.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. What Chrisiousity was saying about how they have an almost religious view about discussion, but then what they do is they don't make the discussion even amongst all people. Even that will be bad. Even given even time with bad ideas versus good ideas will be bad. But what they do is they fucking make it so lopsided with so many bad ideas on one side and so few good ideas on the other side. So how is this a, you know, a valid discussion. It's not. And I think Vadim's panel was a prime example of that, where I felt he was 4-on-1. That's what I thought it was. I thought even the moderator was you. You know, I was angry watching it. Now I thought you did brilliantly. I thought you came out looking like $1 million. I thought you owned it, but at the same time, it was 4-on-1. That's ridiculous.
It was more like 300 on one.
Yeah.
Because I had 20, maybe like best estimate, 20% of the audience was somewhat on. You probably can't hear it in the audio, but I did get some cheers. Maybe 20 to 15% of the audience were on my page. But
the biggest cheer you got was from saying Steven Crowder
the entire time, which was actually fun. It was kind of fun to kind of like wrestle with that dynamic. I did the whole like, fuck that guy, talking about Steven Crowder. But yeah, like it felt like they were another person that I was debating over the course of the whole shit show, So anyway, go on.
Well, you did great. I was really proud of your performance, and you actually convinced me. At first, I was like Chrisiousity. I wasn't sure if you guys should go or not, because you're taking away their excuse from them, and their excuse is, well, we want to have, all these SJWs on here, but we can't find any, so you kind of took that excuse away from them. So that's good. But they can't say that with me. They can't say that they were looking all over the place for the other side of the coin as far as discussion goes, and they just couldn't find anybody to show up because they blacklisted me. I agreed to fly out on my own dime. I agreed to speak for free, and they were like, sorry. They actually lied to me about it. They told me,
so
no,
weird.
We're sorry, we can't add you because our guest list is full. It's in stone, and we can't possibly change it for you. And then after they told me that, they added at least 5 new people to the conference after they told me that. So they just lied to me.
So that was their excuse.
That was their excuse. They're just straight up telling me, no, we don't want you there for X, Y, Z. No, they just lied because they didn't want me to fucking show up because, in my opinion, they thought it would make the other speakers, their big namers, uncomfortable to have me there because we have such a, an online feud.
Two of the people that were on, I'm sorry, but I this has directly to do with what Dusty is saying. 2 of the people on my panel were moderators or in other panels. And, so it's not like they were not somewhat represented in other ways. You should have been on the panel. I mean, could you imagine if like one of the guys, either Godless Spellchecker was out or David Smalley was out, and one of them was the moderator and you were there? I mean, then that would have been somewhat, oh my God, that would have been a blowout. Holy shit.
The whole David Smalley thing as the moderator, especially on your panel, Vadim, I found it very weird because, like you said, whenever he asked, like he posed questions and kind of,
it was actually, it was Godless Spellchecker, not David Smalley, who was the
was Smalley on your panel?
They all blend together.
It was on my panel, but he was not the moderator.
That's right. I'm thinking about Smalley as moderator on our channel. Panel. Sorry. Yeah, but yeah, he very much created like another opposition to our points, and it kind of defeats the purpose of being a moderator, right? I mean, it's supposed to be a.
He did interject with his own sort of personal thing, which
He interjected with things that would have been perfectly fine for him to interject with if he was a panelist, but as a moderator, no. I'm sorry, Chrisiousity, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I mean I agree that, and we had talked before too, and because there was a whole situation that occurred in Vadim's panel where sexual assault was brought up. And it was sort of like, I'm a skeptic and I'm not going to believe women just because they come and they say they've been sexually assaulted. And of course, this being the place that he's saying this sort of thing at, he gets like a hero's cheer of his wonderfulness for saying things like that. And, I left with my finger up in the air, going like, fuck all you people. So then we had a conversation about that afterwards, and I'll say that he has been fairly gracious and he's going to go on my channel. We're going to talk about it some more, but one of the things, like, I wanted to address it before we started our panel, and he said, no, I'm the moderator and we can't have that kind of dynamic. If you're going to talk about stuff out of school, like, I'm going to as the moderator who's supposed to be running this thing, I'm going to have to sort of tell you to stop. And I was like, well, all right, that's fine. That's legitimate. But then to have him sort of turn around and say, you know what, I want to weigh in against these two people over here and with my own points because, you know, because God bless them. But is there a white dude that doesn't think that they need to always come in and say, I'm sorry, I know I'm being racist and sexist again, but like this is just, it just feels.
It's all right. I'm racist towards whites. It's okay.
It feels very mansplaining. It feels very white splaining when people feel like, even though this isn't, I'm acknowledging this isn't inappropriate. I'm aware that this isn't appropriate, but I feel like I have to just throw this right out there, you know? Like they didn't already have panelists talking against us and the entire audience against us, you know?
I do want if Chrissy and Mike had not completely wiped the floor with roaming millennial and Clay Rutledge, if he had, you know, would have had that same instinct to jump in, or if he felt like he had to kind of save
that was another funny thing. There was Andy No, who was kind of covering it from the front row and tweeting about it, and he would have tweets like Clay Rutledge, who has, you know, qualifications and then a list of all his qualifications, says that intersectionality is just a fool's game because, and then it's like incredibly charitable, and then it says Mike chides the audience for being white, you know.
To be fair, I totally did. Like there was some guy in the audience who scoffed at something I said, and I said, "Oh, sorry, did I offend your sensitive white man sensibilities or something like that?"
Yeah, and then there's people on Twitter saying like, "Oh, classy Mike, you racist."
I know. And then David Smalley asked me about it, and he said, "Why did you say that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's because I'm racist towards whites."
But I love it how it's like Sargon's like, "I wouldn't even rape you," and they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then you're like, "Sorry, I offended your white male sensibilities," and they're like, I'm touching the pearls. I'm offended, you know.
Andy,
it's like
so sensitive.
And it should be, you know, Andy is from Quillette, and it should also be put forward that, you know, my panel still isn't out yet, and yet I've had to hear about how fat I am for a week and a half.
Right.
So classy. They're so classy.
Like, oh, she's fat. She's a fat feminist.
But see, you gotta take it with a grain of salt because it's atheism unstoppable saying this, and this guy looks like, you know, Nosferatu got cancer. I mean, so
it's like it's not offensive to say someone's like fat or whatever, but it is offensive to say, oh, maybe you can't understand a certain experience because you come from a privileged situation. You know, that's super offensive.
So that AIU doesn't do, you know. You showed up in person somewhere. AIU hides about like a kangaroo because he's so goddamn insecure about what he looks like. So
true.
So jealous that he wasn't there. Like, because he, God bless. I know I say God bless, and I'm sorry. I was raised by people who say God bless. I don't believe God, and yet I'm saying it all the time because I don't know. It's just in there.
Typical SJW.
Okay, well, that's another thing I was going to say, because you guys, you know, you experienced that conference, and so from your perspective, it seems that you agree that it was incredibly just against you, like the entire environment. I've also noticed that there was a lot of fixation on how people look. Like, people were obsessed with Michael's dress and the fact that he wasn't wearing shoes. And also, Vadim became a meme because he was sitting funnily with a beer. And then there's all the attacks from Chrissy's personal, you know, looks or whatever. Do you think that all of that?
I enjoyed the memes.
But they were meant to come originally from a bad place, right? Like, there
were some that were not great, but
you embraced the meme, right? Like, you reclaimed the meme.
I reclaimed
for them.
But do you think that is a good indication of the fact that the entire conference is just completely slanted against a certain point of view, specifically anti-feminism, anti-social justice advocates,
shitlords?
And there was even like MAGA people in the crowd, right? So
I talked to some dudes with MAGA hats, and it was bizarre. Like I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, there was a lot of MAGA hats around the place.
But I felt like they were trying to find a reason to say that you were shit, and with Vadim, they did that too. They were like, we want to find a reason to say Vadim sucks, and they were probably trying to find things to boo, but it was hard to do because Vadim didn't give them much material because he was just sticking to the substance.
It's very like it's interesting because you said about it being like hostile towards us, very much in a rhetoric way. Yeah, if our positions were very underrepresentative, and that obviously showed. But
like a boxing match or something.
Yeah, it's important to point out though that everyone was very gracious in a personal sense. Like there was no like when we were there, or I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I think this is general across the rest of us. But when I was there was no, no one was an asshole to me at all. I had a lot of people come up and say how grateful they were that I was there, that I'd shown up to represent my side and all that sort of business, and a lot of people came up and they said, I don't agree with you, but it's really great that you could be here, da 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 da. So I never felt like attacked or anything like that. But it was definitely.
I'm talking about like the kind of pro wrestling aspect to it. Like you're getting on stage, it's the battle of ideas.
Oh yeah.
In that way, they were trying to find a reason to boo or be like, no, you're wrong, or whatever. But like how they did with Thomas Smith, they're like, "Cock, got you sickling white knight," or whatever.
Well, one thing that I wish. I'm sorry. Did I cut you?
I was actually I'm really kind of curious about TMM and his experience.
I was just about to say, like, he hasn't talked yet, so I wanted to ask.
Well, no, it's not even that. I've just because we were all sort of in it, and he was sort of like more of an observer. So I think I'd be interested from that point of view.
I was a spectator the whole time. I kind of wanted to say something about the idea that the organizers thought that dialogue is sort of like a cure-all. I think dialogue can accomplish a lot, but when you take that dialogue and you put it up on a stage, it becomes people doing a performance. And the best example of that was the debate between Richard Carrier and Sargon, because it was basically Sargon doing Sargon's shtick. I think it was Mario who was moderating the discussion, but he sat there with his thumb up his ass the whole time.
He didn't say, like, did he say anything over the course of that? Like, I heard him say, like, 2 sentences.
Who is Mario?
He's the guy who is co-funding Richard Carrier's
lawsuits.
His lawsuit.
Yeah. So you'd think he'd be in Carrier's favor and be like, can I help him out or something?
The only time he ever said anything was to, I think, agree with Sargon.
All right.
Yeah, I think the performance. I think that's kind of what you're getting at, Tim. The whole like wrestling thing, where you're on stage and there's a lot of hootering and hollering from the audience, because of some SmackDown point that some person made. At some point, Roman Millennial, like she hadn't even said anything. She was about to respond to something that I had said and was beginning to say a thing, but she got cut off by the audience because they were clapping and hooting so much. Because she started to say
so she's like, well, and they're like,
good point. Oh, that's such a good point.
She started a sentence.
There were
during
that were more productive than the on-stage discussions. Like, I think Chrisiousity, you were talking about how Hunter Avalon who said that nobody ever explained intersectionality to him before as best as you did.
Yeah, which was funny, like because
you never Googled
Hunter Avalon.
Vadim was telling me that the way Sargon did it was he would because when Sargon reflected on it, he said Richard Carrier agreed with me more than I expected, and that was disappointing. And I wish I'd been on a different panel where people were actually disagreeing with me. But when I was talking to Vadim about it, he was saying that he would create like the straw man of like social justice and be like, oh, so this means that I don't know what he said, but like, oh, so you agree with Marxist analysis or whatever.
Well,
Carrier would be like, I don't agree with that, and then Sargon would be like, oh, so you don't agree with social justice, because social justice has to be the straw man in his head, and then the other person, if they disagree with it, then they don't like social justice. So he's like, we agree too much because you reject my straw man.
So that's the discussion that he wanted to have. Is he wanted to have a discussion where they bashed this kind of straw man of what social justice or feminism was.
Yeah. But, so social justice is anti-white, and be like, yes, it is. It is indeed. It absolutely is. I hate white people. Like, okay, fair enough. like, that's what he wants. But the person's like, no, I reject that straw man. So then Sargon's like, you agreed with me the whole time that my straw man was stupid.
that Hunter Avalon thing is like a perfect microcosm of what you're talking about when you're talking about anti-feminism, because it's these people don't understand the things that they're talking about. You know, I'm yet to find an anti-feminist who is against a thing that I would talk about.
Well, they create an idea of what that thing is, and then they circulate it amongst themselves in a big echo chamber. And then when they actually confront someone who believes things that are related to their straw man, they're confused when those people don't agree with the straw man, and they're like, "No, that's not what I think." It's because they
get all their ideas about social justice from Sargon or Greg or whoever. You know, they don't do actual research. They just listen to the people who hate these things or whose job it is to tell them that, you know, intersectionality means white men suck.
I think most of them get their ideas about SJWs from cringe compilations.
Yeah, that too.
Well, even just the SJW thing, I was never on board with that term, but it's become so ubiquitous.
Guys, I need to say something. I'm having a thunderstorm, and sometimes, a lot of times, I think when that happens, I don't know. You saw my comment in the chat, but I just want you guys to know that if I lose power, that means that it'll probably take me 10, 15 minutes to get back on. So,
man, you've had so much bad luck with weather, eh? Like you were in the middle of that hurricane.
It's God fucking.
That's something we didn't bring up. That's something we didn't bring up, and the other thing is the bomb threat.
Oh yeah. That was funny.
Who did that?
Yeah.
Al Qaeda?
I believe it was Chris Reagan. No, really.
Chris Reagan did it?
Chris Reagan was supposed to be on the panel, and then something happened, and he didn't get on the panel, and then Tim Pool took his seat, and right after that, there was a bomb threat. So
Chris Reagan did a bomb threat. And they say that we're bad people.
The evidence. Can't deny the evidence, man.
They were absolutely convinced that like Antifa was responsible for it, or Steve Shives or somebody like that.
Steve Shives called in a bomb threat.
If Steve Shives called in a bomb threat, give the man credit where it's due. He would tell you he called that bomb threat.
He'd say, yeah, fuck those people. Yes, I called in a bomb threat.
Because I hate them so much and they suck. You know,
there was Steve was brought up quite a few times. Like in conversations with people, I heard them bring up Steve Shives and how much of a piece of shit he is or whatever. And I'd always just be like, I'm friends with Steve. He's a great dude. You know, it was weird that people would like, oh, Steve, wonder what he's doing at the moment, sitting at home, you know, fucking planning his, you know, murder of white dudes or something. You know.
What's the same with like people like, oh, I'm so shocked and surprised.
I tell you right now.
People like, I'm so shocked. Mike was like a nice person or whatever. It's like, yes, he's, you know, it's like Twitter and it's the internet. You know, you fight on there. You can't really see what people are actually like, and when you actually meet people, it's a lot different than when you're just sniping on Twitter. So
I was a little intimidated by Mike until I met him.
He's chill. He's a chilled out guy. At least it's my impression.
That's funny.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, jeez.
Teddy bear and like sunshine all the time when you're just hanging out with him. You are. You know
we have good times. We have good times.
Anyways,
Chris have hung out like 3 times now. 3 times in real life. Me and Chris.
I wanted to go back to something, which was when Dusty in
I feel like you're really being very controlling.
Because I want to go back to being
Tim, stop censoring me. Stop censoring me.
Trying to structure this bullshit.
Boo.
Okay.
Platform us, Tim.
Okay. All right. Come on. Jesus Christ. Fucking hell. Okay. So, Dusty, you said that you were like angry or annoyed or pissed off when you saw Vadim's panel. So I wanted to ask what of the substance of what was being said pissed you off, or what was your impression of what they were actually saying?
I was really disappointed in Jacqueline for one thing, because, you know, full disclosure, I own Jacqueline Glenn's website. She's worked for me for years. I paid her tens of thousands of dollars over the years, and it just seems like she just jumped on board with the ship lords, didn't she? She didn't push back against them at all. She just seemed to go right along with it, along with Greg's bullshit. Now, Greg has a complete misunderstanding of what the alt-right is. Clearly, he said, oh, the alt-right used to just mean anybody that wasn't a neocon. No, the alt-right, back in the early Trumpian days, was, it first got started with Richard Spencer, of course, we all know. But then it got picked up as a catch-all term for all Republicans and all conservatives. What is that noise?
Someone's having a party.
That's me. Sorry. That's me.
It became a catch-all of Donald, basically, between all conservatives. And basically the thing they all had in common was they just all wanted to act like pieces of shit to own the libs. You know, that's all they want to do is post memes to own the libs all day long. And that's what the alt-right kind of started becoming a term to catch them all. And there are black people that call themselves alt-right, and there were, you know, I saw Indians and Asians call themselves that. It was just a big group of conservatives. Now, after Trump got elected, they're kind of more embarrassed about the title. It's kind of been retaken over by the white supremacists. But he doesn't understand why people like me said he was helping the alt-right back in the day and what I now call the alt-light, because you're basically feeding right into exactly what they want you to do. They want to distract people from the issues, because in the issues they get fucking killed. You know, people want civil rights. People want universal health care. People don't think we should be $23 trillion in debt and giving $1.5 trillion in tax cuts to billionaires. People don't agree with this. So you have to fucking distract them. And people, what Greg does and Shu does and the entire shitlord crew does, is they go out and they pick the minutia from the left, you know, things that they can make fun of, feminists that have 100 subscribers on Facebook that no one's listening to, and they build them up like they represent the entire left in order to demonize us and distract people from the actual issues, because now all they have to do is say, well, you're an SJW, you know, you're a libtard, and they can just give themselves permission to ignore everything we say and all the points we make. They don't have to actually debate us.
Well, you know what, just on the alt-right thing, I went back, I don't know where I went back to, but I researched
Taking it back.
The topic, because I was curious about what Greg was saying, and he was kind of half right, because it said that originally the term meant a paleo-conservative, which means just a super traditional conservative. That's when it was first used in like 2008 or something. But then Richard Spencer took the term and then turned it into what it is. And on the wiki, it says that it was meant to mean someone who was not a neoconservative. However, it was reappropriated by Richard Spencer. So Richard Spencer is the alt-right side.
I could be wrong, but I actually think that the people who created the term was American Renaissance, and American Renaissance is the fundamentally like an intellectual. No, they are actually like people. I'm trying to remember his fucking name, but recently
Jared Taylor? Or no?
He's an older guy, but he's definitely a white supremacist.
Jared Taylor.
That's what.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that they were the ones, and back in the day, Richard Spencer was working for them. So,
well, I think, like, you know, if it's accurate to say like, oh, it meant someone who's not a neocon, but it's half the story, because the other half of the story is that literal white supremacists and, you know, fascist type people are the ones that are reappropriating it. So,
I don't. Yeah. I'm going to say. And this is going down a rabbit hole, so people tell me if this is just too obscure. Because I actually, I've spent a lot of time on the know your enemy kind of deep diving into like everything that Richard Spencer has ever written. Like I have read stuff going back from the Bush.
You wouldn't believe.
And well, like they hate. The alt-right does hate neocons. They consider them cuck-servatives. They think, and one of the biggest reasons is because of this idea that they would even want to go to brown places and bring them democracy.
The globalists.
Like, well, yeah, it's like a globalism, and it's the idea that these savage brown people, and I'm very sorry for like throwing this racism. That's just the way that they think about it.
Oh, Chrissy, you're so racist.
So racist.
Disgusting. I'm kicking you from the hangout. No.
That's the quota of racism for the day. Get out of here.
Yeah, well, that's the way that they thought about it. I mean, he actually, his first job after he got out of Duke, because he was a PhD student at Duke, who left because he was too fucking racist.
David Duke University.
David Duke University.
Is that what it was?
But he went to, oh God, what is the name of that guy? He was very religious, ran for president, Pat Robertson. Yeah. He worked for Pat Robertson, and he was too fucking racist and too conservative for Pat Robertson. So he ended up leaving. And that
guy's fucking racist, yeah.
Yeah, that's saying something. Like when you can't even get along with the racists hanging around with Pat Robertson. Like
But so would we say that the issue with the Armored Skeptic's view is basically that it doesn't contextualize what he's talking about? It just says, oh, it just means anti-neocon. That's it. You know, he doesn't think about the implications of the people who came up with the term, and then the kind of articles they write, the kind of organization they do, and just what it means now. And
yeah.
Well,
we know that he doesn't fucking research.
One of the things that that Vadim brought up in the panel, which I thought was really good. You know, we were talking about not giving equal time to criticizing the right versus the left, and this idea, and Dusty said it as well. You know, this idea of criticizing the left, but doing it so much because it's important for some reason. But in reality, the people who are creating policy, the people who are in government, the people who would actually have influence in the world are the right at the moment. And so those are the people that we should be criticizing. If you want to say that you're centrist or you're center left or whatever like that, okay, great. So actually, you know, focus on what matters. I mean, you might think that it's important to criticize feminists in games or some shit. That stuff doesn't matter. It has no real world impact. It doesn't fucking matter that even if someone like Riley Dennis or something is talking about you know, different genders and things on YouTube, no one cares. It doesn't matter because it's on YouTube. What does matter is there's some it doesn't affect anybody. But what does matter is there's motherfuckers in the government at the moment, like Betsy DeVos, who's the fucking education minister, and she's anti-education. You should be talking about that. Well, stupid motherfuckers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'd like to add one thing to that, which is, you know, their argument is always like, well, they don't have any political power, but they have all this social power, and it's like, so do a lot of right-wing corporations, and you know, like there's like Hobby Lobby, and there are all sorts of, there's Chick-fil-A, which I guess is marginally better than they used to be.
Kanye West.
But there are all of these apparatuses and corporations that have social power. There's also propaganda outfits like fucking PragerU and Turning Point USA, which you know, kind of try and pose as sort of either educational outfits or you know, groups that are like grassroots that are trying to like spread, but they're not. They're Koch brothers funded, or you know, some other fucking billionaire funded outfits, and you really don't see those things.
Yeah, you brought that up as well. You were like, "What? There's no equivalent to like InfoWars or Breitbart or whatever on the left." And they were like, oh, that's stupid.
People laughed at the idea that the Young Turks are not the equivalent of, they're not the left-wing equivalent of Breitbart, or the right equivalent of InfoWars. But like, what is the left-wing Young Turks equivalent of pushing the idea of Illuminati lizard people conspiracy? What is the left-wing equivalent of that?
Jimmy Dore? Maybe, I don't know.
Almost, maybe.
Yeah, but even like Turning Point USA or you know, the other ones you brought up. You know, where's the equivalent of that stuff where they're blatantly pushing propaganda funded by billionaires? I mean, they talk about George Soros.
I still don't think Jimmy Dore is as bad as Alex Jones. I just think he is so obsessed with like American imperialism that will always be the go-to for any given issue. That's the only thing he'll care about. So he'll always just say, Republicans and Democrats are exactly the same. There's no difference. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Vote independent, vote third party. Don't care about practical issues. Everything about America is just evil. Like, that's his entire thing. And I think it's too simplistic, but it's not like the frogs are turning gay or whatever. Although he does think Hillary Clinton probably killed Vince Foster.
You have to keep in mind that Europe banned memes.
Oh, Europe banned memes.
And I'm responsible for that somehow.
Banned memes.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that question of Vadim was like, so Vadim, you say there's no problems, but Europe's banned memes, Vadim. And you're like, okay, well, what's that got to do with me? Like, what did I do? I like memes.
By that question in like a whole myriad of ways, and it's just like, you know, I didn't know that much about that bill, but I've since found out that it's actually the majority of the people who are putting it forward were very conservative. You know,
it's like it's a copyright thing.
Very
It's basically just a focus on copyright and increase in like the hoops you have to jump through to adhere to copyright rules. So I think it will have a dampening effect in some way because you'll have to jump through these hoops to be able to like use memes because you'll get like copyright flags, but it's not the same as banning. It's just like,
but if someone says to you, you know,
more inconvenient, basically.
When someone on the right comes and says something like that, like Europe banned memes or, you know, Canada's banned misgendering people, it's always going to be wrong.
Got a good chat here. Europe didn't ban memes. They just forced them to comply with Islamic law. It's hilarious. Because that's the law now.
Yeah.
This is not Sharia compliant. It's banned. Like, oh.
Sorry, yes. Oh, God.
Your meme is not
it's just ridiculous, you know. Yeah. But like, seriously, the idea that there is there a... Sorry, Chris,
I would love to. I disagree with the meme thing. I disagree with, well, I guess I'm a little anarchistic, so I disagree with a lot of the copyright shit that goes on.
It's a corporate thing, really. It's very corporate.
Yeah, like I just, you know, I could talk about this for a while, but it's bullshit to me. That Disney has created this copyright of eternity.
As content creators, we don't like getting copyright flags. Obviously, it's annoying. It's inconvenient. It's a pain.
But as someone on the far left, you are against capitalism anyway. So why would we be okay with Disney creating a monopoly that censors people? Why would that be something that we're okay with?
Yeah, and another fucking thing is that these people, they are free for a lot of them are all for the free market and say that, like, you know, that's the solution to all our fucking problems. And then they have a problem with getting censored on Twitter and YouTube and all these other platforms and the shit with memes, which I'm sorry, I don't like it when people get deplatformed when they shouldn't, but it's like that is the free market in action, asshole.
Yeah, it's like Paul Joseph Watson getting all upset about InfoWars getting taken off all the various things for being pieces of shit, and he's all like, "Oh my God, InfoWars is being censored because of the far left." Da 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 da. And I'm like, "Dude, capitalism sucks, doesn't it?"
He's like, "We should nationalize." He's actually calls for nationalizing Twitter and Facebook and stuff. So when it goes against them, they change their tune completely real fast.
Exactly.
Welcome, Comrade Watson. Let's do this.
I'm actually all for it.
I'm a skeptic. Greg, he made this whole video about like how we are being oppressed and being forced to fight amongst ourselves, and that they're just dividing us and stuff. And I was like, this is like progressive rhetoric. That's what progressives say. They say that they make us focus on myopic other things while they just take all the resources.
Yeah.
You know, cut healthcare and cut taxes and drain like public resources. And it was just funny, like, oh, Greg accidentally said some super progressive shit, but when you get him back...
Greg accidentally got woke.
Yeah, when you get him back in a room to actually discuss things, he's straight back to the status quo and defending, stuff that he says... He's not going to go against
the audience he's built. These people like their money, they like their audience, they like the attention they're getting, and they're not going to go against the audience that they built up. They don't have the balls to do that, Believe me, it's hard to do that. It's hard to turn your back on all your audience and a shit ton of money, to change your opinions and content.
Yeah, one really ridiculous thing about Greg and that whole argument is that he was talking about how they've taken identity politics and turned it against us. Well, a form of identity politics is the fanaticism about illegal immigration. And he had several tweets where he was talking about how Hillary Clinton was going to be as bad as Angela Merkel and, like really very anti-immigration tweets and things like that. And that actually is a legitimate way that the right have created an id poll issue in order to distract people from the real issues, in my opinion.
Can I ask a question? Is identity politics just another fucking right-wing buzzword? Because
I've heard people who actually are on the left use that. Like, for instance, Mexi has. You guys know who Mexi is, right? She's a YouTuber. She's awesome. She's super awesome, really intelligent girl. And she talks about, she had a video about how identity politics should not, is not a bad thing because these groups are kind of already ready formed, and they just have to kind of communicate effectively and not really kind of trip over themselves and exclude others as they strive for their goals. That's really that's when they fuck things up. But
so when Greg says identity politics, what does he mean?
Well, he means left-wingers that band together. That's what he means.
Say again?
He means left-wingers that band together, because when right-wingers do it, they don't say shit. Like the biggest group of identity politics in America is the Christians. 81% of evangelicals voted for Trump. They don't say shit about that. They just call it out when the left, because they don't like the left organizing in the same way they do.
I think it's people who notice inequality.
Tim, enough. I'm talking.
Stop censoring Chris.
Right, go on.
I love you, but you're a serial interrupter. You know it. Anyway, so I really have to go back to what Dusty said. I think he's absolutely right. When we say identity politics, there's an actual definition to that term. It doesn't just mean, Black people saying something. It means where your identity has some influence on your politics, and that is literally everybody. That's just that's one of the things that I tried to bring up to them, is that they are just ass deep in white male identity politics.
Ass deep.
It's not just how it affects your politics; it's how politics affects you.
Yeah. So
it's kind of superfluous. It's
anti-SJW is a form of identity politics. Just
totally.
The Men's Rights, Association is. It's all the same shit. They just label the other side that because they don't like it.
Damn it. Every time I talk, Chrissy talks at the same time, and then I interrupt her automatically.
And I will. No, you go. Your turn now, baby.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I was just going to say that I think the clearest example of identity politics I can think of is people like Dave Rubin constantly saying I'm gay, and Milo saying, "Oh, I've got a black husband."
Right? Yeah.
Because that's devoid of substance. It's got absolutely nothing to do with what anybody's talking about.
But they call people out on that all the time, right? They're like, "Oh, you're just you're using your identity to such and such." But then Dave does that all the time. He's like, "Oh, do you really think that a gay man who loves who wants to legalize weed and such would be on the right or whatever?" Right.
Well, I think that the validity of identity politics is probably directly proportional to the substance of what you're saying. And just saying I have a gay husband, I guess you'd be gay too.
I have a gay husband.
That to me, that's the least valid identity politics, because it's got no substance. It's just look at me. I have this identity.
That's not how people on the left use it. We don't actually say, if you have a vagina, that means you're right. That's sort of the straw man that we get to hear about. But that's
they
not
do that, right? Like Milo does it all the time.
Well,
we're saying that, there are different things that we might say, if you have a vagina, you might have a different lived experience than someone who has something else. But that's just the way that our society rolls.
Well, hey, Chris, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So so you brought up the point of of being a parent, being a mother, and that being an experience that a person who's not a parent can't really understand. And then there was a person who came and asked a question where they got a whole bunch of applause. Of course they did, because of saying that I'm not a parent, but I can understand the importance of abortion and vaccinating and things like that. How would you respond to that? Because I have a couple of ideas, but the analogy for me.
To that would be, yes, of course there are certain things that any idiot should be able to figure out. Even though I may not be a Black person, but I could certainly tell you that being put in jail for a crime you didn't commit sucks. I don't have to be a Black person to sort of say that generally.
Getting shot in your living room.
That kind of sucks. That's not a good thing. I don't actually need that, but that doesn't mean that if we're going to have a sort of nuanced in-depth conversation about race in America, that white people talking to other white people are the ideal group for that.
Isn't that the thing? The way that the left uses this often is more about making voices heard. So they will say that if you're a certain identity, that you should have a place in the dialogue that's more prominent. Like, we want to hear from you and what you have to say. But it's not the same as saying, because of your identity, everything you have to say is automatically correct. Like that was the argument.
They seem to think that the argument is that people should be given a pass into whatever, you should be put into a branch of government, or you should be able to get a job or whatever because you are such and such identity, whether you have the qualification or not. That seems to be the thing that they think that we're saying. But I mean,
it's ridiculous.
I know it is. I mean, the thing that I tried to say is that representation in government and things like that is important, because how are you supposed to craft policy? How is a straight white man supposed to craft policy that helps and benefits like transgender women or black women or gay men or any of that stuff, because they don't have the experience of beating that person. And they often say, I don't see why this person can't understand, but it's demonstrably not the case. That we have a government that is run by white dudes, and we have injustice towards these people. So,
the thing that annoys me about that. Oh, sorry. I'll just interrupt you quickly, but and then I cannot stop interrupting people. It's ridiculous.
It's hard with this many.
You want to go first?
You should change your name to
Interruptorator opinion. I was just going to quickly say that the thing annoys me about that idea is that they are kind of saying that there couldn't possibly be anybody of that particular identity who would be qualified. Like, if you have to pick just amongst black people or minorities or trans people, there's no way you could find someone who's as qualified as a white person. It's just so stupid. Of course, there's a pool of qualified people in those groups, so that pisses me off. Anyways, go on, Vadim.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Fuck.
See, this is what happens, Tim, when you interrupt all the time.
What was right before you said that?
Michael was saying some stuff. I don't know. It was a bit.
I love the.
He was planning his new interruption.
I
wasn't paying attention. Can you say
that even people who are conscientious and would like to craft good policy for everyone, you're inevitably going to have blind spots to certain experiences and certain groups that you naturally were not a part of, because that's bound to occur. So that's all. It's not a big
and even it's very simple. There's laws now against racism, which means racism doesn't exist anymore. Just like there's laws against murder, which means murder doesn't exist anymore. It's very clear and obvious that it's all blown out of proportion.
But I mean, even if you take the analogy, I suppose, that they went with, which is, you can know that even if you're not a parent, you can know that that you shouldn't that you should vaccinate your kids and you shouldn't do such and such. We're still having those discussions. People, there's still those issues in government because there are people who don't understand that experience. Abortion is still a thing that people in government, old white dudes, are complaining about and want to make illegal.
Until their mistresses get pregnant.
There's a person in the chat here who says, "Oh, no meritocracy then." I mean, that's the exact thing I'm talking about. Are we just saying that the only way that something could be meritocratic is if they are white people or part of the majority, because they're the only people who could possibly be qualified for stuff?
But see, the thing is that go Chris.
So there's a couple things. And one is that one of the things that should be considered as part of a meritocracy is whether you have experience and knowledge. And that would be a useful thing to have if you're talking about race. And there are other things as well. I mean, it's, for one thing, that there's a natural bias towards white guys. We know this. We know. The data is in, the studies have been done. It's not a mystery to us. We know that there are certain people who are considered sort of the norm of society or the status, however racist it might be, and it is.
You fucking
incredibly
racist.
Such a racist.
It is racist.
God, this dominating. You're just dominating this discussion with racist stuff.
Every fucking day, I know. Fucking Kiwis. You know who I'm racist against is goddamn Kiwis.
I didn't expect this hangout to go this racist, to be honest. Surprised me.
Well, why'd you invite me? Like,
I don't know.
Just real quick, if you guys haven't seen our Prime Minister at the UN, man, you guys got to check that shit out. She's such a badass. She went to the UN with her baby, took her on the floor, and then like gave this awesome speech that was like condemning nationalism and xenophobia and racism and all that sort of shit.
And then she said, "This baby is smarter than Donald Trump," and everyone's like,
"Yeah,
okay, she didn't say that."
She's a badass, man. Anyway, continue, Chris. Sorry.
All right, I forget where I was at. Where
Sorry,
was I
that's
at?
my fault.
Well,
experience. You were talking about like.
Yeah, like that is part of it, and also there are other things that you have to consider. If you are, let's say, you're a white person living in a country, and you go in to because you've been accused of a crime you haven't done, and everybody on the jury is black, and the judge is black, and the prosecutor is black. Are you telling me now you're going to feel comfortable? Let's say you're a man and you're going in for a sexual assault case and everybody's a woman. Are you going to feel 100% comfortable? I mean, this is about empathy and it's about involvement in our civic life.
Feels over facts?
No, it's about...
But they always say in response that it's about just picking people for their identity and no other considerations. And that's just
Which
the
is
annoying...
nonsense.
Yeah,
it's nonsense.
Man.
But like, if we're talking about meritocracy as well, like, if we're going from the standpoint that we are at, I mean, we don't live in a meritocracy right now. We don't, and to say that giving or helping people who have previously been disenfranchised is a bad thing because meritocracy, that's ridiculous. It ignores that A, we aren't in a meritocracy, and B, if you want it to be a meritocracy, leaving it the way that it is not going to move it more towards meritocracy. It's just going to keep it as a white-dominated system. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that, like, if we're talking about America as a system, it was founded on white supremacy, racism, slavery, all that sort of stuff. That stuff doesn't just go away when you decide, oh, we're outlawing slavery now. It doesn't just go away. It's baked into the system.
You said the stuff at Mythcon as well?
What's that?
Did you say the stuff at Mythcon as well on your...
Yes, I did.
And how offensive was it?
Oh, I was incredibly offensive. Yep.
Oh. Well, okay. I want to change tack slightly in the Hangout because I also want to talk about the kind of, I don't know if you've already talked about this today, but the kind of behind the scenes, like social element of YouTubers getting together, because there was one tweeter who said, Mythcon is just like a big circle jerk fest for these YouTubers in their little bubble, you know, going to meet each other and, I don't know, do some sort of round robin wank festival.
I did do a lot of this.
And I was just wondering about the social element. Like, is it people are just going there to self-promote, or are they actually going there to socialize, or are they actually going there for the ideas, or, you know, what was your experience of the kind of social, I don't know, atmosphere of Mythcon?
Well, I got fucked up on the first night. It was great.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, because that article in the Quillette was like, even the foils, which is you and Chrissy and Vadim, looked like they were having fun at the party or something.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like even you.
I got fucked up. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Like, I did my job, and then I went out and got fucked up.
But we had networking, smoking, and
we were trying to find a place to buy booze because we were only given one, like at the last party, there was only one drink, like free drink thing that we found. So we were trying to find a place to buy booze, but it was too late. It was closed.
Tragedy.
They should have open bar for you guys. Come on now.
Well, the first night was great. They had a keg. We got there and Vadim opened up a bottle of whiskey. There was just a bottle of whiskey on the thing, and he was like, "Let's go."
But were you freely mixing with the shitlords, or were you in your own space?
I was mixing with a decent amount of them. I mean, Carl is someone who I just can't.
Oh,
because you wanted to recreate the Lacey Green picture, and you didn't get the opportunity.
And Blair is someone that I would have attempted to have a conversation with, even though that I, made this video about her, which was not flattering to her. And I give her some credit for putting a foot forward and kind of like calling some shit out recently, and kind of acting like she's trying to put a foot forward to be, kind of a better person. I don't know. It's possible that that's just her, like, kind of trying to distance herself, like realizing, oh shit, I've fucked up my brand. I'm gonna not be a part.
You concluded in your video that she does not have shit for brains. So
I think her problem is that she really, two things. One is, one thing that I know for certain is that she does not put enough research into her videos. That is abundantly clear.
Well, that's
an epidemic. I also get the impression, and I can't say this for certain because I don't know her, I get the impression that maybe she has, saw dollar signs when she started getting popular and really like went into a direction that maybe really wasn't what she wasn't exactly what she was, and then realized that she didn't like what she had become. Maybe that's not the case.
But did you interact with her, or was it just like arm's length?
She asked me to keep my distance, and I respected that. She looked at me. She gave me some.
She did? She asked me to keep her distance?
Same for me.
What?
Yeah, same for me.
Oh my god.
Because you guys are like gonna flip people off and dance and do all
yeah, man. You're not me.
I DM'd her before, like when the video came out, and I said, look, like this video may, I basically recommended that she watched the second half first, because the second half is a little more kind of, a little kinder to her, and especially the ending. And I said, like, maybe you should watch the ending first if you happen to watch this video. And she was like, like, I'm not going to, and I don't have a problem with this. She said that she wouldn't watch it because she gets anxiety when she watches videos like that. And she said, I just, I wish you would have talked to me rather than, make a video. And I said, well, look, like, honestly, I had a huge problem with the level of misinformation that you put out there, especially with the second video. And she said, I take exception to you saying that it's misinformation because that makes it sound like I was deliberately lying. And I said, look, it was incumbent on you to do this research, especially in terms of this woman who I believe you slandered and you completely misrepresented in a whole variety of ways. She's a good woman, and all you had to do was a tiny bit of research on this woman to realize what the facts were about her. And then she just said something about, like, well, ironically, you talk about misinformation, but that's what you're spreading about me when you say that I'm a white supremacist. And I didn't actually say that she was a white supremacist. I said that because there was some article, sorry if this is getting very involved, there was an article that came out that called her that, and she said that she was going to sue them. And so I put out some tweets showing some inflammatory things that she had said, and I literally said, I do not think that Blair White is a white supremacist, but I can see why maybe some people would get the impression that she'd be friendly with them.
Wow.
So I quoted the tweet, I sent it to her, and I said, look, that's not what I said. This is what I said. And she said, whatever, just keep your distance at Mythcon. So I did.
Was this not DMs or?
What? Yeah, this was DM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not a conversation. The one thing that I'll say, last thing I'll say about this is that I actually thought, and he's come off like a little bit like a meathead in her videos, but I thought her boyfriend seemed like he was.
Yeah, Joey was great.
I thought he
Joey.
He was really great. And it was, what was funny is that there were several times where he was around me and he was joking with people that I was joking with, and he so looked like, I could be wrong, he so looked like he wanted to joke with me. He so looked like he had some.
But he wasn't allowed to. He's like, oh.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just being like full of myself here, but I got the impression that the guy was like, oh, I like this guy, but I can't do it.
You have to not like him, damn it.
And
he's cooked. He's cooked.
Yeah, he's pussy whipped. But yeah.
So like,
also,
I've been talking for a while.
I think this is because of Chrissy's racism, but it says YouTube. Your YouTube video has been age restricted. Hi. Our community guidelines describe which content we allow and what we don't. Your video catching up with Peeps about Mythcon 2018 has been age restricted.
That's what they do to us. They false flag us constantly. They fucking constantly.
What did we do? What did we say?
I've never heard of that. Like while the
Like during the live stream?
Yeah, it's right here.
Can I tell you? No, I need to. Does anybody know who Oscar Jungel is? He's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He is a skeptic. He does a lot. He doesn't really do so much atheist about God, but he'll do it about like pseudoscience or about like ghost people or paranormal people. So we did a stream together about astrology because what's his name? Dr. Oz had put something about, hey, astrology is great, isn't it? And maybe if you're having certain illnesses, you might want to think about your star sign. So we did a video like that was meant to be about that. And immediately, because I'm on it, it was downvoted before it started. It was,
Right.
This video got one downvote.
Lost a whole bunch.
Just after I made the video.
You serial interrupter, you.
I'm trying to add to your point. Go on.
The whole ratings thing is ridiculous anyway. Like, people are like, oh, you disabled ratings, so you must be a coward.
But I wanted to bring up about the social element because I think I was the odd person out socially. Like, I didn't... I hung out with a lot of lefty people, but I am a fairly, I think the nicest way to say it would be authentic, and the meanest would be like, I'm as much of a bitch as I appear. So like, but like somebody introduced me to quartering, and I turned to him and said, so have you gotten over Shira's tits yet? And absorb that situation, like, and he was like, "Oh no," He was like, "Not." What? Well, no, I think he said something like, "Well, I'm not going to keep talking about it forever," or something like, I'm going to move on to other topics.
I'm going to start saying, what is it? Captain Marvel is middle-aged, even though she's even though she's 28.
She needs to smile more. That's her problem.
And then she's a mum, even though she's got no kids.
He's like, I'm on to other things,
like,
damn it.
I mean, that's kind of the way that I am. And I think in that sense, I'm more like, I'm probably the most like Dusty, and they should probably have kept me out of there. Because if I like, the same thing with Dimitri, because he's put some transphobic things on his shit, on his Facebook before. And so I called him out on that. And I said, I don't think that's fucking cool, dude. Like, what'd you do that for? And he's like, I think you have me confused. I'm like, I don't think I do, but but anyway, like, I mean, that's the thing. When I didn't go to the party because I didn't want to be at Mario Quadracci's house when he's suing people. I didn't like, and I'm not comfortable. Like, I think Shoe on Head is all right. I can talk to Shoe on Head, but like, I'm not gonna pretend that I'm a really huge fan, and I'm not gonna pretend that we're gonna be besties, because we're not.
Right.
Like, I'm just not, like, I guess I feel like for me it was and I did tell them to keep Carl the fuck away from me.
I could picture talking to him, but I would picture it being incredibly awkward, like just weird, like, oh, hey, Sargon. Oh,
remember when you
Tim? Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, it's you. Oh, yeah.
Remember that time you made fun of my friend the very day after she was murdered? You remember that? Was that fun? That was so fun.
And then I feel like we'd get into some sort of fight or something awkward, or I'd just be like, I'm just gonna walk away.
So he kept like walking behind me or like near me, but he never broke the rules, so that's fine. I was like, whatever.
Oh, so there was rules for Sargon. Like,
he didn't dance, apparently.
Did he have rules like that he had to follow, like not get...
That was the only thing I asked of the Mythcon. Dude,
keep Sargon away from me.
Tell Carl I don't want to talk to him. I don't want him to approach me. I won't approach him. I'm not going to talk to him. I wasn't like with Mike. I didn't go up and say, fuck you or anything. I just keep him away from me. I don't like him.
So, Mike, did you talk to him at all or no?
Hey,
I
okay.
Who goes? You could do rock, scissors, paper to see who goes first.
Me.
Let me talk.
But
I want to say something.
first.
I want to say something.
Okay, Vadim, go Vadim. Sorry, Mike.
I actually wanted to ask Messianic Maniac, Manic. Sorry, I always think it's Maniac. I wanted to ask him because I didn't get the chance at the actual con. Well, what were your favorite panels and why?
My favorite panel was
obviously my one.
With well, no, my favorite panel was one of the trans ladies because it was friendly and it was enjoyable, and I was worried that because there was a trans panel that there might be like anti-trans people there, but I was pleasantly surprised that there weren't any overtly anti-trans people there. So yeah, that was my favorite.
Blair was on her best behavior.
Yeah.
And Brittany's great, man. She was such a good moderator. She's fantastic.
Yeah. Back to Blair White saying that she has a problem with people calling her dishonest. The reason she blocked me on Twitter, because I pointed out one of the things that she does all the time where they don't actually read the article. They just instead take a picture of the headline and then claim some SJW as being a shithead. And I called her out on it, explained to her exactly why she's being dishonest. And her response was to first tell me she's going to leave it up forever because it triggers me. She doesn't care if it's dishonest or not. And then to block me. But she don't give a fuck about being dishonest. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
Hmm.
When was that?
In Vancouver, hung out.
A couple months back.
Okay.
What's going on?
Oh, I was asking, why do you think it was that Blair pulled out of that thing in Vancouver? Did she ever explain that? She just sort of ghosted them.
She does that a lot.
Do you mean that thing with ContraPoints and Theron?
Yeah, and Theron.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was because she realized she was out of her depth. She realized that that Theron was in the midst of kind of changing, and then so you have Theron, who is a very formidable debater, and Contra, who is fucking it and super smart. So I would not be surprised if she was just like, "Oh fuck, I'm gonna look like a fucking idiot on this thing," but what she should have done was inform people, which she didn't do. I understand until like very late in the game. But anyway, that's the. I don't know that for a fact, but just kind of.
That sounds
so
fair.
Like Blair asked me to stay away from her as well, because before the yeah, exactly. There was the whole me wanting to flip her off during the conference.
Not professional. It's not professional. That whole professionalism thing confuses me. I mean, it's just YouTubers. Like, I guess they're professionals, but we're just a bunch of wankers who make videos on the fucking internet. You know.
I would have no problem with the professionalism idea if they didn't have Sargon on.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm not a fucking professional.
Hey!
Hi.
I'm talking.
Go.
So, like, who is the number one person who is...
Are you talking? Are you really talking, Chris?
Hey.
Bad timing.
Monster.
Oh, okay.
Oops. I think we can all agree Carl sucks. We're with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, just the idea that he is some sort of thought leader, because he's like the big thing, right? He's the big attraction. He's the ultimate thing of him talking with Richard Carrier. I mean, I've got problems with Richard Carrier, great, but he's actually a smart dude, you know? I mean, he might be a piece of shit in certain areas, but you know, he's written books. He's done, you know, he's actually got credentials. And Carl's just some fucking idiot who got popular during Gamergate. You know, it's.
Well, that was one thing I was wondering, Mike, because didn't it feel weird being like an official human? Because I was thinking, like, if I went to this conference, I would feel a bit weird being on the stage. Because I'd be like, why am I on here? Like, I don't have any fucking expertise in anything.
Yeah.
I just make YouTube videos.
I was really glad that Chris was there because Chris is actually smart and she knows a lot of stuff and she's read all these books about and she's done work in areas where intersectionality is important and all this sort of stuff. So she actually knows her shit.
We're not like experts or academics or.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. That was the weird thing about having Clay on there. So Clay's like actually Clay Rutledge is, you know, a quote unquote, like he works as a professor at a university and he's got degrees and all this sort of nonsense. And I mean, that's great. And he made that very clear on the panel as well. You wait until you see him talking about it.
Right.
So
That's
but
about all
it
he
was
said.
kind of
What's
that?
That's about all he did was list credentials and puffed himself up to just be like this super debater, and then from that point forward he didn't
master debater.
Jack shit to say.
I'm not saying it's bad to have no credentials. I'm just saying people should be honest about the fact that this is just their opinions about stuff that's going on in the world, and they just do independent research and looks. And they're not like some kind of academic writer who's written like theses on topics.
Well, that's the thing. Is the dynamic was really weird because basically the only thing that set me apart from Roman Millennial is that she's got a lot of fans in the audience.
Yeah, that she's got more exposure. I mean, but the level of expertise is the same. It's just people with particular
talking
opinions.
about stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Wait, did you guys say roaming millennial? Woo!
Yeah, roaming.
It was seriously like she just could have said like you, and everybody would have been like, yeah, fucking yeah, bitch.
Yeah. Just on the
you're alive again.
She's here.
Hi. Sorry, I
Chris.
dropped out. I don't know what happened.
You censored yourself.
I did. I deplatformed. No, my laptop deplatformed me. It was terrible.
Fucking censoring platform. What an SJW.
I know.
And the video became monetized again the moment you left. No, it didn't. I just made that up. But that would have been funny. Your video is age restricted. Like, huh.
Oh, interesting.
Makes sense.
I was just gonna say on the social thing, like so I wasn't allowed to talk to Blair. But see, the thing is, I got rather drunk, and often, like when she'd walk past me, I'd be like, "Hi, Blair, hi," and she would just ignore me. But there would be times when it was awkward because I did actually get along with Joey. Like I talked to Blair's fiance and to Roman Millennial's fiance quite a lot. Like we stood around the keg and had some beers and talked. So I got along with those two guys really well. And so it was, I mean, it's fun with Roman because we kind of get along a little bit as well. But like with Blair, like I got on the plane for me flying home. I was on the same flight as Blair and Jacqueline and Blair's husband, fiance, obviously. So I was like standing in the line, waiting to go on the plane, talking to Joey, and Blair was like right there, but she's just blanking me the whole time. It's really bizarre.
Wow,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, I get it. If you don't want me to interact with you, that's totally fine. I don't see why. I'm not a fucking. I don't know.
We're also nice.
Also, Michael, like somebody on Facebook sent me a link to that Rucka Rucka Ali guy singing the Sargon song.
Yeah,
that you were there for, and then he said. Like the person who sent it to me was like, "Is that Mike Rowlands who's there at the side?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think it is." And he said, "I noticed him because he was the only one who wasn't laughing."
Yeah, I was sitting there, like
you were just like stone faced, like
it was really awkward because I was cringing, and I was also like some of the stuff that he was saying during it. I was just like,
But then he said, "The one black guy, come on, let's hear you cheer," and then you laughed, and I was like, "Oh, you laughed at one joke."
Yeah, because that was actually kind of funny. But the rest of it was like, the rest of it was just bullshit.
Actually, Sargon hates that song too, apparently. Because it's really just a fucking terrible song. Like, it just sounds like garbage.
It's not as good as
I wrote a poem.
You're getting rusty.
You wrote a what?
I wrote a poem for Carl that I was going to like if I was ever on a panel with him instead of actually debating him, I was going to read this poem to him. And it's a beat poem about how awful he is.
So, you were going to do that?
Yeah, but I never got the chance. So
why didn't you just do it directly after you did that romantic song for Head?
Well, I'd forgotten it by this point because I wrote it last year and obviously memorized it all last year. And then this year I just didn't even think about it. So, but it's on my channel.
So is that kind of like you went to that concert and that event and stuff, but you were kind of sectioned off a little from other people, like you were a little isolated?
Well, I was so the table that I was sitting at was like right next because there was a jazz band playing, and so I was like, sweet jazz music, I'm gonna go and have a listen, and so I sat right there at the corner table. Shut up, Dusty. And it was so I was enjoying the jazz music. There were two girls that I'd met during the thing, and we got on really well. So I was hanging out with them. TMM came around for a bit, and so Chris and Vadim and stuff were kind of hanging around there, but I was mostly hanging there because of the music. And and that's when they wanted me to play. So I went up and I played the thing, and that's when more of the kind of everybody came that way, because that's where the stage was. And so I kind of got sort of barriered in by just hundreds of people like wanting to see what was going on the stage. So, you know, it was
Sean Head was crying, so you
it was interesting because I'd been blocked by Sean Head on Twitter because I called her transphobic, which she has been in the past. So I hadn't, you know, I don't really know what she's been up to these days, so I can't really comment on anything she said. But like, she was literally one of the first people, like of those kind of people that we saw, because I got into the elevator going to this party, and it was her and Greg came into the elevator. I was like, oh, hi guys. So that was kind of awkward. But then, yeah, at that thing, I played in the song, and she came up to me and she's like, Michael, that was really sweet. And then she hugged me, and I was like, oh, that's really cute.
And you're like, you know what, Shu? You're not transphobic. Because you gave me a hug. I like you.
Yeah.
No, I think that, oh God. I think that Shu has a capacity to be the smartest of all of them.
Oh, me too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But doesn't try.
But I know that doesn't mean much, really, but yeah.
I'm damning her with fake praise, but I don't think that she necessarily wants to be. And, you know, I mean, that's okay. You can be the person that you want to be. Yeah. I just,
it's interesting because
like, well, you know, and maybe this is talking out of school, but like, she and Greg certainly have a dynamic in their relationship.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, very nice way of putting it.
And that's okay, you know, if that's what everybody wants, if that's what makes you happy, like, then
which dynamic are you talking about at the moment?
The one where, I don't know, he sort of
be specific.
Hey, he's the boss, or
kind of like, all right, so we're getting on the van, right? And he points and says, "Go sit there," to her.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, if it's because she has a certain, she comes off as someone who has maybe anxiety, and maybe he's attempting to be helpful.
Or daddy. He's a daddy, tell her what to do.
Well, there is that. Like, there's that aspect.
Yeah, they've got that dom sub relationship thing going on, eh? So
I ain't hating on that, though, to be honest with you. I got a little bit of that going on too, so.
But I think the dom sub thing can just happen to coincide with like traditional gender roles as well. So it can be, you know, maybe she's comfortable in that dynamic. It's not like it's not like an inherently wrong thing if that's what they actually enjoy. That's fine. It's just their life, you know.
She certainly seems happy with him.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to judge her for that. Like, you know, you should be happy with the person that you're with.
I kind of wish that Brittany were in this stream because she could explain this far better than any of us.
Yeah.
Who could?
Brittany Simon.
Right, because she's into that whole dom sub thing as well. I think the way I run my relationship is more just like, I don't give a fuck about anything. You know,
too much trouble. It's a lot of effort.
If my wife's like, "Oh, I want to go, dude, I'm just gonna go to somewhere else for the weekend," I'm like, "All right, cool."
The way I run my relationship is I ruin it, and then I get broken up with, and then I'm single again. It's great.
Oh, honey.
No, I'm funny. I'm not bitter at all. It's fine.
I actually think Shu is smart, and I think she's funny, and I think she's pretty, and I still think that she does harm to society with her bullshit. You know, you can be all those things at once and still be bullshit. So.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Oh, sorry. Go.
I was just going to say, I think that she's a perfect example of like of the way that social media operates, and you know, I mean, people coming up to me and saying, you know, oh, I'm surprised by you know, you being actually a nice person. It's because, you know, the persona, but the persona I put forward online, like the thing, the person that I put forward on my YouTube channel and on my Twitter and stuff is curated by myself to be a certain thing. Like I put forward, I cut out things that I don't like, and I cut out bits of dialogue that I don't like, and I carefully pick what I want people to see, and that's what they see, and that's the image they have of myself. And like Shu is a pretty perfect example of that as well, because she's completely different in person. Like from the videos that I've seen of her, she's nothing like that in real life, and it's interesting, you know.
It was funny, like when you came to my wedding, and then like in the after party, when hanging around with all my friends, and then we started like talking about online stuff, like, oh, what's going on with Sargon, and like I'm skeptic and all this kind of stuff. And I started to feel a little bit awkward because all of my friends were sitting around like, what the fuck are they talking about?
What the hell are they talking about?
Like, it was like we had this this connection on all this online stuff, but when you're in a room full of people who don't follow that shit.
Oh, I know.
Like,
you have to, whenever I'm talking to like my mum or something about, you know, because inevitably it happens. She's like, "Oh, so what's this thing about?" I have to give her so much backstory on
like,
all
who's
the things.
Armored Skeptic?
Who's
like,
that person, and what's their thing they're doing? And
why the hell are you talking about some douchebag called Sargon of Akkad?
Yeah,
like that's what I got. Like people have looked at me, and I've said, like, you know, there's this guy Sargon of Akkad, and they look at me like I'm
like you're a total maniac.
You kidding?
Like, what the fuck is a Sargon of Akkad? That's a thing.
like, no, bear with me. It's a real thing. Like, I'm not making this shit up.
There's enough people in atheist YouTube for there to be a whole convention. Like I was talking to non-YouTube people about this, and they were surprised that you could even get a whole convention worth of like atheist YouTube folks together.
Yeah, because the fan base is very spread out because through the power of the internet, it's just scattered all over the place. And when you bring all those people together, you're like, wow, people actually exist.
I have a real belief in the need and the importance of a secular presence in the world and politically. You know, like I'm not fucking around. Like I think that it is, especially in America, well, not just in America, but many other countries. You know, I have a friend who's from Brazil who was mercilessly shot because he's gay. And, well, I don't, like, it's not something I've talked about before, but, like, it was a terrible, terrible thing. Like, people just shot the shit out of him, you know? They just turned around and emptied the gun. I should laugh, because
the way you describe it sounds, they shot the shit out of him. He was totally shot to all fuck. Like, did this person die?
No, he didn't die. He went into a coma for months. And actually, I'm going to see him tomorrow. It's the first time I'm going to see him in so long. He's an awesome guy. Really? I miss him. Cool. Like, I think that's why this is so in my mind.
So it was a hate crime.
Yes, I would say so.
No, it was a love crime. They loved him so much.
They called him.
I can imagine.
Okay, Brazil is a strange fucking place. Let's not talk about how they define things right now. But like, he's a dear friend of mine. I'm so happy that it took like 2 years for him to recover, and now I'm going to see him again, and I'm very happy about that.
Is he American?
He is American. He went down to Brazil. He lived there for a couple of years with his husband. And they had like a little store together, and this was sort of put out on the internet because I don't know, like people sent it to me. I never watched it, but it was described to me multiple times. That, you know, a guy comes in, they do rob his store, but then they put him down on the floor and they just empty a gun.
Wow.
And it's kind of clear that they have an issue. Let's just say that it's a personal issue.
When they're on the stage and all they're talking about over and over again is how to appeal to the right wingers and how social justice is such a massive problem, and then Vadim did a great job of focusing on the real world issues that actually impact people. And you know, you can think of plenty of examples of real world things that are just not going to be discussed on that stage. Like if Vadim hadn't been there, the whole thing just would have been like, oh god, this is just social justice.
So I do think that it is really important that what we do as people who are secularists or humanists, or, you know, I identify as agnostic, not atheist. For multiple stupid reasons. Boo. Well, I'll argue with you.
Dusty saying boo.
I'm hissing and booing, yes.
You sat out, fence sitter.
No, it's not that I'm fence sitting.
Nah, a little bit. A little bit.
Do you have a problem with Neil deGrasse Tyson doing the same?
Yes, absolutely. I think they don't understand the difference. I mean, I'm an agnostic atheist. They're completely separate things, and you can be both at the same time. I mean, obviously.
Yes, I think
Right.
Can I say why I think I'm agnostic and not atheist?
No.
First of all,
Okay, yes.
I don't understand everybody's definition of God. And so I can't necessarily say that I don't agree with the Christian definition of God. I don't agree with the Muslim definition of God. There's a number of different definitions of God. I can tell you right now, no.
Do you hold a belief, though? Do you hold a belief there is a God?
No, but I don't
All right,
understand.
You're an atheist then. That's what atheist is. Atheist means no belief. Theist is a theist. And if you're not a theist, you're an atheist.
Will say things like, and this is, I want to actually get through this because not a lot of people, all right, this is probably a stupid thing to go off on a tangent about, but I'm gonna.
Do it.
So there are people who will say God is love and God is consciousness. And while I don't understand why you would call that God,
that's not God.
If that's what God is, then fine. But I don't know. And then there's a very weird, stupid part of me. I know it's weird and I know it's dumb. But all right, let's take, say, example Thor. Thor was a god. And he had lightning bolts and whatever, right? Let's say that there's somebody on a planet somewhere that is able to shoot lightning because he has some sort of electromagnetic thing. Does that mean that there's somebody on a planet somewhere who's basically Thor, which is basically a god by some people's definition? And I know that is stupid.
But do you have a belief in that?
But awesome.
If you don't have an active belief, then you're not a theist. You're an atheist.
Chris, are you just saying you couldn't rule that out?
I'm just saying I wouldn't rule it out, and I don't know. I'm just saying
I would rule that out.
You don't think that there's somebody eels have electromagnetic impulses? Are you saying that this isn't possible? Are you saying in a string theory kind of world there couldn't be a world with a god? I don't know.
I guess anything could be possible given that the universe is infinite. It's just perhaps my human brain is too small to actually conceptualize that actually being the case, or how far into the universe you'd have to go to find a Thor-like guy hanging around on a planet.
The two things
agnosticism.
I think my brain is too limited to even think of how far you'd have to go in the universe.
Atheism and agnosticism answer two different questions. Agnosticism answers knowledge, which you can and cannot know, and atheism is about belief, which you actively believe. And you can say, well, I have no idea. I don't have the knowledge. I'm an atheist. But if you don't have an active belief, you're also an atheist, which makes you an agnostic atheist, just like the rest of us.
Well, Dusty, I'll ask you then, do you think, given if the universe is infinite, is there infinite possibilities of what could be out there? What do you think?
I mean, I've had this conversation with people. Some people say yes, and some people say no. It's only an infinite possibility of what's possible. Only things that are possible are infinitely possible, not just anything. Period. So it depends on how you view that question.
You couldn't say that it's real because you'd have to actually experience it. And
exactly, I'd have to have evidence. I have a logical mind, and my mind simply cannot believe something without evidence. That's how logical mind works, and so I can't have belief without evidence.
The agnostic element is I don't know, I'm not sure.
All right,
that's why you're an agnostic atheist.
I want T to weigh in because this is sort of his wheelhouse, not mine.
Is it?
What would you?
I'd like some tea.
What would you call somebody who says, I think there's a 40% probability that there's a God?
Agnostic?
An atheist.
I want to know if Dusty would consider that a theist.
I would consider that, unless you have an active belief, you actually believe, more probable to be true than not, that there is a supernatural God, I would call you an atheist.
Okay, so someone who believes there's 40% chances a God is an atheist. If somebody said there's a 60% chance that there's a God, you'd call them a theist?
Yes. As long as you believe it's more probable to be true than not based on the evidence. That's what I would, of course, you can't really do that, but yeah, what I'm saying.
All right, I would say that there's at least a 60% chance that there is something in the universe that someone would call a God. But like I know.
I mean, yeah,
like,
there's a 100% chance of that
well,
because people call nature God, and nature definitely exists.
It's
there's
cool
a
stuff
100%
God.
chance.
Like this.
Yeah,
guitar
anything's
pick's
God. Like I'm a God. Why not?
like
But do I
this
mean
is
like?
what I say because I came in right. I came in from. I didn't come in from Christianity. I came in from Woo. I came in from New Age. I came in from Wicca. Like and nature is the God there. And it came to a point where I could no longer believe in anything that would be considered supernatural. And I felt like I just couldn't do that. Like there's a part of that belief system that says you have to sort of suspend your disbelief. You have to suspend your critical thinking. He's being an asshole.
No, I'm saying I want to talk next.
He's raising his hand in class.
Okay, yes, Michael, you've been sitting nicely. I call upon you.
After Chris, we can finish.
Okay, Chris.
All right, so
Call on you.
like, but it came to the point where I just said, there's a lot of bullshit here, and I just can't go in for it, and I can't believe it, and I can't turn off my critical mind or the mind that says, no, this isn't working. But at the same time, I do understand that there's a wide variety of what people conceptualize as God. And that is very hard for me to say that I don't believe in anything that people would say is a God, because there's no definition. There's no set definition. If there was a set definition of what God is, I could tell you whether I believed in it or not.
It sounds like it might be a bit of a theological non-cognitivist.
All right.
yeah, exactly. So I was thinking.
That's someone who just doesn't understand most, if not all, definitions of a god, or doesn't believe that they have any coherent meaning.
All right, Michael.
There isn't a coherent meaning, okay, but go, Michael.
Right. I think I was just going to say, I can. I remember someone talking about like the difference in DNA between between apes and us, right? Being, I don't know, like 2 or 3% or something like that. And the difference, if you think about the difference between us, not philosophically, so there's this like difference between us, and you can see like an objective difference in us behaviorally and cognitively and all that sort of business. And you could see how that small amount of difference, from the perspective of the ape, us could quote unquote be considered, more godlike or something or other. And you don't have to necessarily include supernatural things to kind of understand the idea that maybe there could be quote unquote higher beings living in the, we don't know if aliens exist or not, but I mean, the idea that like a type 3 civilization or something could exist somewhere, maybe possibly, that to us or to other beings could be considered godlike just because of their how much more advanced than us they are. Not because they can, pull a rabbit out of a hat or whatever, but but because they are much more advanced in a whatever kind of way. So the idea that could be a god to us, I don't know how I would put that on a sense of me believing that, or me as an atheist or not, but I can see how that could be something that one could conceptualize.
The entire thing just seems like the semantical definition of what you label as God.
Oh yeah, sure.
Is what dictates whether you believe in a god of some kind.
I think it's an interesting discussion to have. Yeah.
God, you could say, yeah, there's a God because I've given that word to this thing. And if you don't believe in a God, you just say, I don't think that there is anything you could label as God. But it seems like a really,
but like if we're talking about specific
postmodern way of thinking about God, to be honest. I don't know. For me, it's
when you talk about like a capital G God, right? I mean, that's one thing, but then to think about like God-like things, like a thing that a being or a race of things that could be considered God-like to us.
I think I'm more atheistic in the sense that I think that we've created such a narrow idea of what God would be that I would prefer to just reject that word and just say, there's no God or gods, there's just ideas about what things are. And You know, some people might have a spiritual feeling about something. I don't know why you have to call it God. It just seems like that's the word everyone's used to. So
because it means you can stop women having abortions.
There you go.
And I don't want to interrupt like our sort of atheist hardliners, but Dusty, hi.
I'm an atheist hardliner now. Yes.
One of these days, Dusty and I are going to argue about cultural appropriation and get the fuck out of it. But
one of those hats. What are the hats that the atheists wear?
I don't know. But
a fedora. Got to get a fedora.
A fedora, yeah, and a neck beard.
And a neck beard. Yeah, I can't really do that. Too much soy. Anyways, go on.
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
You need to argue with cultural appropriation with Dusty.
Somebody said in the chat that I erase people's trains of thought. Like, when I start talking, people just lose track of what you're saying.
It's so true, though. It's so true.
It's hilarious.
I remember the eraser.
I want to say, guys.
Go. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say there's a culturally accepted definition for what God is, and that's what we're talking about when we say God. Now, you can change the definition of God like Jordan Peterson does to mean any fucking thing you want to, but we're talking about a specific concept, really, when we say God. And so it's not really that hard to understand.
But I don't know that everybody is.
I know but that's there's definition. There has to be definitions to words so we can understand how to communicate with each other. And there's a definition of that word that we basically all understand.
I don't know about that definition. I don't.
I mean,
anyways, we've gone way off the rails. Vadim was going to say something. What were you going to say, Vadim?
Oh, I was going to say
there were rails.
I had made a comment early on in the Mythcon posted the video that I was in, and I made a comment there, and so someone just responded to me, and now there's all these new comments there, and I wanted to say that the comments are now chock full of people saying, here, I'll just read some of these things. It's amazing. The claim that we don't have InfoWars on the left is absolutely ridiculous. TYT is all you need to say, but CNN is good at spreading.
CNN. Oh my God.
Young Turks definitely have talked things as retarded as Pizzagate and gay frogs.
Like
what?
I mean,
they deny the Holocaust of the Armenians.
I mean, it's really no surprise to me at all that their crowd attracts people more fucking shit for brains idiots like that. But yeah, I just had to share. I'm sorry, it's not really much of a point, but
it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I do want to say one other thing. Actually, is that one thing that's a little disappointing to me is that I wish I would like more people on the left to check out these debates, because I think that we all did, those of us who were there, to kind of talk on our behalf. Or the left's behalf, if you will. I think everyone did an excellent job. And I think that that there are a lot of people who just will not watch it, either because they hate the assholes who are involved, Sargon and won't go through all the names. But then also because last year was just so cringy and they just think it sucks. And so I'd like for people to see us doing a good job against these people, and I think a lot of people probably aren't going to check it out, unfortunately. So I don't know.
No, I think so too. Like to actually, I mean, I suppose I was there to provide some sort of resistance, and it would be good to not just be shadowed in the comments a whole bunch. I mean, I know it's going to happen a lot, but it'd be good to have some actual proper feedback.
Shirt looks so dumb. Why is Michael in a car? He's such a loser.
The left needs to do certain things better. And one of the things is supporting other leftists. Like, I don't think that we do that enough, and I don't think we do that well enough. I think the other thing that we don't do is, it's all great to say that you're going to not endorse a platform or provide a platform, but where the fuck are the platforms for leftists? The Koch brothers are doing fucking fine. Yeah. They are providing the hell out of platforms.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Soros. We've got George Soros. What are you talking about?
Are doing great job. Like, they are investing. They are putting money. They are putting whatever talent they can possibly find. And it's it is a thin, weak talent pool there. And let's not even say otherwise.
Well, TYT.
What on the left? Fucking serial interview. On the left, we're not doing it. We're not putting the money forward. We're not putting the time forward. We're not putting the support forward. And we need to, because we have to. I don't like the marketplace of ideas. I think it's bullshit. I think it's all about that argument ad populum. But we have to have something out there. We can't just let them dominate.
It's hard though. They have all the money. They have that religious money. It's very hard for us to compete, especially when the entire atheist community turns into the the shitlord town. Like it all went bad. Like how do we compete with that? It's so difficult. Like somebody like me who tried, like I tried, and I got crucified for it, man. They took half my audience and they took 80% of my money and like they fucked me. Like what are you supposed to do?
I don't know. I've never had it. Like I've never had the money or the attention. Do you think it doesn't, like on some level, I see a person like Sargon of Akkad or any of these people who don't put the time, the effort, the research, the thought into what they're putting out there in terms of argumentation as I do. I put a ton of stuff and I do it for nothing. Literal nothing. Like it's just, I only do it because I want to get the ideas out there. I have no other reason. I don't get a financial benefit from it. I don't get fame and fortune. Like it's been a couple of years here, and like I don't mean it in a bad way. I don't mean like, oh, poor woe is me. I don't care. I have a great life. I really do. I have a very wonderful life, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to do it. It's just really annoying.
I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. Like when the atheist community came out, they didn't have any funding. We couldn't get advertisers and stuff. So I started my clothing line. I paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars to atheist content creators, trying to fix the situation. And the entire community turned into shitlords, which is, so disheartening.
Well, the thing I was going to say was I was watching TYT segment on Candace Owens, and Jenk actually made a really good point that there is no kind of grift for somebody on the left saying like, hey, I'm a black and I'm gay and I'm, you can't do that on the left because nobody cares. It's like, oh, I'm a black progressive. Like, so what?
Yeah. Those like people like her and people like Charlie Kirk and Peterson and all that sort of stuff, they are like Chris is saying, they're funded by the Koch brothers to push a certain agenda, to a pro-capitalist, pro-conservative agenda. And they're literally funded by billionaires to do that, to push that. And they have those platforms because of that.
That grift exists.
They haven't built
on
it
the
up
left.
from the ground.
You actually can't. There's no like magic grift.
I know. There isn't.
It doesn't
exactly.
exist.
Yeah. So it's disheartening when you actually, and we're talking about people like Crowder and stuff who don't actually believe the things that they say, but are paid by people to say certain things. They talk about George Soros funded shills on the left. It doesn't exist. We literally believe the things that we're saying and build up platforms from nothing.
I'll become an Antifa, and that will just all the money will start flowing in. I'm an Antifa.
That was fun. That was something that happened in the at the thing. Is David Smalley brought up Antifa during the he was doing that whole two sides thing. He was talking about like white nationalists over here and Antifa over here, and we have to discredit both of them and meet in the middle somewhere. Right? And when he brought up Antifa, I was like, woo! I was sitting in the audience, woo, Antifa! And
Dean did that too. He was like, Antifa!
Yeah. Because people are clapping for all this nonsense, and I figured we need to get some clapping in here for some actual good stuff. So
you could have got a chant going, Antifa.
Yeah, two of us, but like, no, really, I'm not against. My thoughts about Antifa would be too complicated to get into right now. But
video.
Can we all just agree though that anti-violence is the best tactic because it just works so much better. I mean, did we learn this from Martin Luther King Jr. and the way they did things and that civil rights pass by sitting in the lunch lines, the lunch tables, and getting beat on and just sitting there and showing the other side who the bad guys actually were by being nonviolent? You know, that's kind of the way I approach it.
I think it
I
depends.
don't know, man. I'm all about punching Nazis.
Would it have gone as far if Malcolm X hadn't been, in the background? Because I think Martin Luther King did say, if you don't deal with me, you're going to have Malcolm X to deal with. And I think that helped him.
I think it depends because, like, if you're talking about, like, Nazis marching in the streets, that's kind of a big problem that you need to counter.
I mean, those motherfuckers don't want to do it now because of the anti-fascist protesting. I mean, look
I'm
at
not saying be violent, but you've got to show up and you've got to actually like present some sort of opposition. And there are going to be people saying, if some violence occurs, you'll get blamed for it. Obviously, say like, oh, you're instigating by saying, hey, Nazis, you shouldn't march here.
To the Nazis, they don't care, and they are violent. You know, if we don't, I'm not saying you should necessarily instigate, but the thing is that without, I mean, it is going to happen from them if there isn't some sort of deterrent off the bat. And I don't think that rhetoric is a deterrent for those guys to be violent towards people.
Yeah, and Martin Luther King, he was protesting like a default state of society. Like they literally couldn't even go into a cafe. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't march. They couldn't even like walk around, whereas I think
and now Nazis are basically the same, right? Nazis can't express their opinions at work.
But the thing that's happening now is that Nazis are out in the streets and they're trying to get into universities and they're trying to like actually get involved in mainstream society. So it's a bit of a different.
I just think violence is counterproductive. It gives the other side ammo they shouldn't have towards us because all they can do is they can point out, see how violent you guys are, see how violent you're
versus
wrong.
resistance.
Violence.
That's the equation.
I think that there is I think there are two things, which is a pragmatic and an ethical argument, and I think they should be separated. So the pragmatic argument, I think that the data is in on the pragmatism, which is that it's generally more effective to go nonviolent because it brings a larger group of people in, and the larger the group of people you have on your side, the more likely you are to be successful.
It works better.
So there's the pragmatism, and I think that there is something to be said, and I also think that there is something to be said for the sort of winking on the other side of, we could do this the hard way. Like, and if we end up doing it the hard way, you're not going to like it. Like, there's such a thing as guillotines. They didn't come out of nowhere.
But isn't like a sit-in different than a resistance to an active thing that's occurring, like a Nazi march? That's like two different events, right?
So Antifa does things a little differently, and Antifa looks at things a little differently. They are a local group. The literal no pasaran is you will not pass. They don't necessarily look at the big picture. They're looking at right here, right now, no platform for fascists. Right? Yeah. And this is my community, and you can fuck the fuck off. So there's a different kind of focus and a different kind
It's a game of public perception, though. The public perception is what's key here. The optics of it are how you win. The best optics are going to win in our society. Unfortunately, that sucks, but that's the way it works. So we have to have the best optics, and nonviolence, in my opinion, is how to get those best optics.
And I also think ethically, because I am a person who is somewhat anarchistic. So I would say that I'm a person who believes that your own bodily autonomy is the number one most important thing. And what is a more horrible violation of bodily autonomy than violence? And what is a more toxically masculine, macho way of looking at the world than to decide that we're going to just punch our way to the right way? And that's not okay with me. And I, from that ethical standpoint, I have real issues with some of the shit that I've seen on some of the Antifa stuff. That I think it's very machismo. I think it's very taking in of this sort of idea of toxic masculinity, and we're gonna be Keanu Reeves and just shoot or punch or smack our way to the right way. And I don't think that that's realistic, and I don't think that that's the way that we should look at things. I think I do think that there is a time and a place where you have to be violent. Like when you're coming to the point of people being, children being dragged into tents and people being taken onto trains, like it's at a certain point, there is a time where there's just no other options left to you and you have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it should be a last option.
Isn't that a little late, though? I feel like that's a little late.
If the Nazis killed your dog, then you'd have no choice but to massacre all of them.
And stole my car. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, and if they fucked your car up, like there'd be no violence.
I feel like if we're dragging people onto trains and into concentration camps, I feel like that's a little late in the program to start being resistant.
And that is the
violent.
problem. It is a real problem. You've already sort of lost you've lost your window, but you didn't know that window was there.
Take these people out of these trains.
And
like
that.
Hey, dudes, I've got to hit the road.
Here.
I got to hit the road. I got to drive back to Hawke's Bay, and I've been talking for 4 hours straight. Well, talking and listening.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
We should probably wrap it up soon. Anyways,
you can keep doing your things.
Into many different topics. It's very fluid. Hangout.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah,
it's been fun talking with y'all.
Good chatting up.
Good to meet you, man.
Meet up in real life sometime.
Yeah, we should.
Also, I was going to ask quickly: are you going to go to Mythcon next year, or what do you think?
If they invite me, I probably will. Yeah.
They're not doing it.
They're not doing it.
They're not doing it. Oh.
Well, what they're doing is that they're going to start doing it on the road and doing lots of smaller get-togethers.
Can you still get free flights?
I do it again depending on what the topic is and who I was just talking to. Like there are certain people that I just would not want to have a conversation with. I would not want to have a conversation with Sargon, for instance, because even though there's almost a morbid how that would go. But it's sort of like they're leaving. Like the people that I talk to, even though that I feel like at times they threw out some what?
Nothing. Don't go.
Okay. What?
I quickly wanted to say that to Michael that they paid for his flights, right? So how can I get free flights? That's what I want.
All right.
What? Say it again.
You can get free flights if you go to Mythcon because they paid for your flights, right? So how do I get some free money from these people?
I mean, I don't like if they're not doing the same thing next year. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Because what I did was I was already in America and I had a flight home, but they said that they would pay for my flight home, so they gave me a new flight, and I just cancelled my flight home, which I got a refund for. So that was.
Can't they fly me there and back?
Probably. I mean, if
yes, you paid for us to go there.
Anyways, that's all. Sorry to cut you off, Vadim. It's just Michael's leaving, so I just wanted to get that in.
Yeah, right, I don't know if that's something they're doing next year though. So I don't know. You just have to talk to them.
Bye, Mike.
Sorry, Vadim.
It's all right.
Okay, I'll see you guys again soon. Nice talking to you all.
Bye.
See you in hell.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, Vadim, what were you saying? You wouldn't want to talk to Sargon.
I mean, I don't think I would because I feel like there's some people who just they're incapable of arguing in good faith, and I think that there are some people who are such good debaters that they can refute people like that quite easily. And maybe if I had a little bit more experience as a debater, I would take on the challenge of a bullshit artist like Carl, but I would rather someone else, hand that off to someone else. I'd rather talk to people who are a little more capable of being real than someone like him. So it just depends on kind of what they'd throw at me and if I do it again. Although, I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm not incredibly sure how much this has benefited me. In a way, it was very therapeutic because I really wanted to say the things that I said to the people that it applied to. But I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that it has you know, the effect of that people who are sympathetic to the things I said find it and find me and yada, yada, yada. But I very well could lose subscribers over this because of how, you know, prevalent the anti-SJW bullshit is. And you know, in a certain way, yeah, fuck those people, because if they're that close-minded that they're going to unsubscribe for that, then in a way I don't want them around. But you know, I don't want it to hurt my bottom line. I don't want it to do things like that. So, so yeah. Well, yeah, I know Dusty knows exactly what I'm talking about. So,
welcome to my world. I understand it.
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, yes, I'm absolutely glad that I did it, because I feel like, you know, I said some important stuff, and like one thing that was really flattering at the end of it, Greg said to me something to the effect of, "I wish it was just you and I up there." And so,
no, he doesn't. Believe me, he doesn't.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it would have ended well for him if it was. But yeah, I took that as a compliment, you know, that I mean, and part of it was that he realized that I was the only person who was kind of on the opposing side. But I think it's also because he thought that I was a formidable speaking opponent. And I don't know. I'd have a conversation one-on-one with him if they were to make that happen. I definitely would. Because even though that maybe some of the stuff that he throws out there, I think is just that. I think he actually believes that stuff. Whereas someone like Sargon, I think he's just hamming it up for his audience.
I thought Skeptic seemed fairly muted and very sort of low key in that conversation, whereas Jacqueline Glenn seemed like she had sort of personal issues with you that she was trying to hash out. Like, well, why'd you get triggered when you responded to me on the DMs for Deem?
Okay, well, let me please respond to that, because that was a key moment in the discussion. First of all, Jacqueline and I get along very well. I've known her for a while, and this is the first time that we had actually met each other in real life. We really made each other crack up at the party beforehand, and you know, she asked me to give her a call to wake her up in the morning and stuff like that. So I think we're friends, right? But then during the discussion, she brings up this stuff that I thought was really kind of, I just didn't think it was really called for. I went into it thinking like, I could have some gotcha moments for these guys. I could throw things at them about their actions and stuff like that. But I thought, no, I've got bigger fish to fry. I want to talk about bigger things than like some petty, like, you know, interpersonal shit. And she brought up this video that I sent her, which I sent her unlisted. And the reason why I did that is because I considered her a friend and I didn't want it to be construed as drama. And she mentioned that, you know, she asked why it triggered me. And the second that she said the word triggered, that made the audience go, woo, yeah, that SJW's triggered. And it, like, I really just didn't speak to it because there was no way that I could unpack all of that inside these sound bites that we have to like we could really only have, you know, 45 seconds max to discuss these things. The audience had no clue what she was referring to. And so there were all these things that would need to be explained. And then I'd have to like tell her what I thought, you know, there's no way I could do it succinctly. So, yeah, I thought that was a moment, like a lot of people are kind of treating that as like, she totally kicked you in the balls, dude. But I don't know. I think those who really kind of look at that in a more, I don't know, just look, who are smarter, who look at it, realize that it just wasn't, I didn't think it made her look good to bring that up. I mean, Dusty, what did you think of that moment?
Yeah, same. I thought you were just trying to bring up shit to throw you off, you know. It was just kind of sad for me to see, to be honest with you, because, you know, we've been close for years and I've been supporting her for years. And I just hate to see that she's going down that same road everybody else does. And I understand that she's doing it because that's where the audience is. That's where the money is. But it's not beneficial to our society. And sometimes you have to think about bigger things than just your bottom line and your view count.
Yeah,
I think that also in a larger sort of way, you have to think about and it's funny because I've seen Lauren Southern make the same argument that there is such a dearth of right wing and hard right voices that there is a huge audience for that. Like, if you want to go in and hear about how women are terrible and Black people should shut the fuck up, there's just not a lot of people out there to go to. But there's definitely an appetite on YouTube for it, and you'll get a certain number of subscribers right off.
Well, yeah, it's hugely popular. That's the best way to get money right now. The SJW hysteria is still running rampant on the internet, unfortunately. You know, it's been 2 years now since I started speaking out against this. They still have the most hits. They still get the most subscribers. It's still the most popular shit. And people get mad at me they're like, you keep saying that. Just get over it, dude. You're just jealous. No, I'm just calling out what I think is bullshit on their side, just like you're supposed to do, you know?
Dusty, don't you reckon
there is a very small window for it, and you will be hurt for it in the long run.
Agreed.
Like, I totally think that that's true because, like, you can see it now. You can see people being called out for things that they said 6 years ago, which is
they're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah,
that's the problem. You're popular now, but you're on the wrong side of history. So enjoy it while you can, but you're all going to be rats jumping out the sinking ship, and we can see it coming. It's so obvious.
But like, Dusty, if you went on a panel, don't you think that heaps of it would just be about how uncivil you are and like how you weren't nice to me with this tweet, and you're always tweeting me out of context, and you're always doing
facts over your bills, dude. You know,
yeah, but they would be like really hating on you.
Well, I can take it. You know, I can dish it out, and I can take it. You know, that's kind of my personality. I'm not the one that continuously blocks me. They're the one that blocks me. I don't block them, motherfuckers. I can take your shit all day long. Bring it.
But then it's not about the substance of what's being talked about. It's just the personalities kind of battling on the fucking stage.
I know, but that works. Unfortunately, you know, that really can work. If you can outbattle somebody and have a strong personality doing it, that will register with a lot of these shitlords who eat that shit up.
Because we were talking about Sargon and debating Sargon, and he actually said something a while ago that seemed a little bit humanizing, which was weird. He said that he suffers from stage fright. He just mentioned it, and
everybody fucking does.
And that's something that he tries to get over or whatever. But I actually thought, like, oh, that's cool. He's actually revealing something that makes him into more of a person. Okay, he gets stage fright. All right, that's interesting. And then he gets over it by just like going in there. But then I thought maybe that's why he's so overly aggressive and just ridiculous when he gets on stage, because he's got all this nervous energy and he just channels it into going on the offense and being like, oh, so you lied about that, so you're dishonest. Oh, you believe in identity politics then? Oh, that's what your people think. That's the kind of people you hang out with. That's what you believe.
I don't think I'd be like that. If you actually watch the few live events I've done, I'm actually pretty calm, and I sit there and try to be rational and talk to you. But I'll definitely call you out on
Sargon. Yeah,
I know we're talking about how I would be also viewed that way, as very aggressive and whatnot. And I'm not actually that aggressive. I would definitely call you on your bullshit. I will explain the things you've said in the past and ask you to ask for them, but I'm not going to be overly aggressive to the point that the audience is turned off by what I'm saying.
But would you just attribute stuff to people, like just say you believe this? Because that seems to be the big Sargon thing. Like he just gets on there and he just says, like with Richard Carrier, from what I understand, he just kept telling Richard Carrier what he believes.
I would quote him and then ask him to explain himself, you know, but it's not up to me to tell what he believes.
Part of the side who believes that it's okay to be racist against white people.
I would say, this is what I think about you. This is what I think you're doing. And why am I wrong?
Yeah, like it seems to me, I'd say it seems to me that, you know, this is that sort of what people in your area believe. Is that true or no? Whereas he's like, you do believe this. This is what you think. Like that's his big...
He's Kathy Newman.
The thing about Carl, Carl does terrible in debates. And there's a certain bunch of reasons that people do badly in debates, right? And the most common, I would think, is that they're not very personable, or they're not good at putting things into words, or they're not charismatic, or, you know, all those things. And none of those things are Carl. What Carl can't fucking do is put together a coherent thought process. Like, he is, God bless him, but he is the guy that says that he's a free speech absolutist, but McCarthy did nothing wrong. And like, these are like, everything he says contradicts everything else that he says. Like, he's such a contradictory, circular, bizarre thinker that he can't, when it comes down to people actually asking him questions and saying, what the hell are you thinking and why are you thinking this way? He comes off as a lunatic, because that's what's going on in that head of his. I honestly think that there is something in there that is not firing right.
It's like Jordan Peterson. They don't really give a shit what he says. They have this view of him that he's this brave free speech warrior who's anti-SJW, and it doesn't really matter what he says. They can justify whatever he says by just, you know, interpreting any way they want to. That's the same with Carl.
Well, there was a clip of Jordan Peterson where somebody made a valid point to him that was counter to the point he was making. Do you guys see that clip? And then Jordan Peterson is like, you know what? I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious because it's like he's just throwing stuff out there, just seeing what's going to stick. He's like throwing some shit out. Somebody actually makes a valid point to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I am full of crap."
Yeah, he knew he was beat right there. That was the Jim Jeffries one. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
so
the Jim Jeffries one. Yeah,
but I want to point out that a woman had made the same point to him before.
Oh,
But she's a crazy woman. You can't handle crazy women.
Crazy female who he couldn't hit.
You have to punch them.
It didn't matter. But literally, she had said the exact same fucking thing.
Wow.
But you see, that's chaos. Different. That's the chaos there. There's
like her chaos dragon was just rearing its ugly head. And we've all seen that.
There was no order to what she was saying.
I will say that it's kind of heartening that even some of the right-leaning atheists are starting to clue in to the fact that Jordan Peterson is full of shit. Like my anti-Jordan Peterson videos do well even with that crowd, it seems, and same sort of with my anti-Ben Shapiro videos. So things I think are starting to turn in the opposite direction, fortunately, a little bit.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I love that Hugo and Jake have started to push back. I love that. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on
even TJ.
Name. TJ. She's a trans atheist mind. Oh my God, why can't I think of what her name is?
Trans atheist mind.
Essence of Thought.
This thought is great.
Yeah, like she's starting to come out and say much more clearly about certain things, and like, oh my God, so many. There are real people coming out against this, and I'm genuinely gonna say I hope that things do better.
I just wish. And fuck it, you know, I mean, like, they don't have to, retweet my panel. I don't give a fuck. But I wish that some of these guys who right now have, and women, I just mean guys pejoratively. No, not pejoratively. That's not the right word. Just generally. Sorry, unfortunate choice of words there. But I wish that, you know, your H-bomber guys and like philosophy tubes, all of whom I love their work, and 13 Arrows and stuff. I wish they retweet some of them and say like, hey, these guys are doing a really good job here, or this is interesting, or something like that. Again, they probably find the whole Mythcon thing cringy and they don't want to associate their brand with it. But it's sort of like, I do think that in the long run, it's better for all of us when like the bigger ones among us. I mean, I certainly, if I was at their level, I know I'd be doing that. And I think it helps the whole community to kind of just, you know, I really do. And I don't know, like in a way, it kind of bums me out that doesn't happen. I mean, maybe they will, maybe suddenly they will. I doubt it, but I have noticed sort of a reluctance from them sometimes to kind of promote smaller YouTubers and things like that, or that's the way it seems. I can't presume to know what goes on in their mind. I love their work, but I think that this speaks to what Chrissy was saying earlier about things that we can do better, and just kind of like creating more of a sense of support for all of us that have similar viewpoints that are trying to fight against this bullshit. I just wish that there was more of that.
What we need is three lefty dudes put a podcast together.
Absolutely.
And be very popular.
We still don't have a name.
Yeah, we need to pick a name. The Untitled Podcast.
We should say, I mean, this has been going on for a while, so I don't know how many people are still listening. But to anyone who's listening, if you have ideas, both Tim here, Dusty, and myself are going to be doing a podcast together, which I'm very much looking forward to. And we haven't figured out a fucking name yet. So if you have a name that you think would be appropriate, please feel free to put it in the comments.
We've been sharing names for like the past week, and some of them are just the worst stuff I've ever seen.
And my ideas are brilliant, of course. Also, that
Lobster Apocalypse. That could be a good one.
That is good. I like that one.
There's Lorca did something about arsenic lobsters, but anyway, that's not that fall on your head. I'm a poetry junkie, and that is the weirdest possible kind of nerdism.
I really hate to interrupt Chrisiousity, but I have to run. I have another show. I'm booked like three shows tonight somehow, so I got to run real fast. Yeah, I know.
What's the other show if people want to follow you in a new spot?
That's a good question. I don't know that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. That was send me the info, but
just some people.
I don't know.
You know I'm the most interesting person you'll talk to tonight.
You are, definitely. I hate to go, but I got to go. So, I love you guys. Thank you very much. We'll talk soon. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for coming.
No problem.
Logic. That's the thing he does, right? Well, sorry.
It's interesting with him because like a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago it is now, that I would have thought he was the last person that I'd be hanging out with. Like, oh my God. But I'm glad. But anyway, the thing I was going to say that I also think that we need to promote not white dudes. Like, I would promote...
come on.
Fuck off.
Kind of get a plug.
No, seriously. I promote Malmrose projects. I promote Ashley. What is it? Electric. I can't remember. No, is it Electric Boogaloo Ash? You know who I'm talking about, Ashley.
Oh, Electric Ashley, yeah.
Electric Ashley.
Lady Columbia.
Lady Columbia is huge.
T1J,
who is not in favor of Mythcon, and I asked him to email, and we're going to have like an email thing between the two of us, and we're going to talk about it because he's fucking awesome.
It's going to be real tense, like when Sam Harris emailed Noam Chomsky.
We're talking about the one janitor.
Is the email
T1J, right, okay.
Well, I was gonna is it gonna be real tense, like when Sam Harris emailed back and forth with Noam Chomsky?
No, because T1J and I have known each other for a while, and we've been friendly for a while. Like, I know his real name, and whatever. He's
so random. He just says like random stuff.
No, I think that he says very rational stuff and very reasonable stuff most of the time.
That's always stuff that makes sense, but it's always a bit random. So it's just like he's a very shower thoughts kind of guy. What I've seen.
You
don't think so?
On Twitter, not so much on YouTube, I don't think.
Oh, on YouTube, he's more like specific topics.
Yeah, I think that I'm a fan. I think that he is more liberal than I am, and I guess I'm pretty left. and that's okay.
Hmm.
But he's more of a liberal person who wants to have, and I think that was his big thing with Mythcon, is that he wanted to have people who were willing to have a conversation and wanting to debate ideas and wanting to come in good faith. And I'm not as interested in that as I am in the sort of more strategic idea of what's going to get the kinds of ideas that I need to get forward to people forward, and what's going to stop people from having these sort of regressive ideas, literally regressive ideas, not what Dave Rubin would call regressive.
Well,
Yeah.
there was something you said earlier, Chrissy, that I was wondering about. You said that we need some sort of secular space, which is more open to, I guess, left-wing ideas or whatever it may be.
Not just that, but be people. Like, there are a lot of people out there, and I have met them and talked to them and interacted with them who have been told from a very, very young age that there's something terrible about who they are.
Right.
And something wrong with what they are and how they live their lives, because they're gay, because they're this, because they're that, because they're trans. That's not okay. And they're coming out of these situations, Interrupter Man, like with a real harm. Look at all the people who are coming out of Catholicism having been abused by the people that they were told were godly. Look at all the people who have been deeply hurt in these sorts of God camps, or like the people I know who have actually been sent to these re-education camps for gay people. It is torture. It's fucking torture. And it's not fucking okay. And the first thing that we should be doing is providing a place for these people where they're safe. And for women who have spent their, like, there's this whole Church Too movement. There's a Mosque Me Too movement. There's all these sorts of things that you can look up and see. People in power have been taking advantage of their power to hurt people for a very long time. And it is the very, very baseline of what we should be doing, is providing a place where these people could come to and find some measure of healing and safety. But instead they come to us, I will tell you when you can go. Dimples. I will tell you. But what they come to is someplace that is meet the new boss, the exact fucking same as the old boss. And it's just, that is why I am so passionately against this kind of bullshit that these thought leaders of atheism are putting forward, that just continually reinforce and continue to hurt people that have already been hurt, and who should be the first fucking people that we should be standing up for. All right, go.
I'm sorry. I got a little. I want to see what you guys think of this. Again, this is stuff that's on the. This is very confusing to me. Okay, this is stuff that's on the Mythicist Milwaukee page. So there's this one person who goes by the name of Azure Phoenix, and in response to Vadim is the most stupid. Is more stupid than I suspected. First they say he answers the question. Yes, it divides the atheist community because half are open-minded and half want to talk and half are like Vadim. So obviously they hate me, but then later the same person says, I can't wait to see the Chrisiousity panel. I'm really looking forward to seeing her erase roaming millennial while she's on the same stage. So like obviously she likes Chrisiousity.
No. That's not what she's saying. She's saying that I am going to erase
that person.
her identity. That's the identity politics thing. That's what she's saying.
Saying that Chrisiousity is going to dismiss the fact that roaming millennial is a person of color.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, I didn't get it. I thought she just meant like demolish her. That actually makes me feel better because it's sort of like, I don't know. It always stings when you know, like I really don't give a shit when these MAGA assholes or, you know, just closed-minded people put me down. But when it's actually people who are like-minded, it's a little worse. So it's weird because, you know, like on one hand, the overwhelming majority of people who, you know, seem to be on the same page as me on the Creationist Cat channel, like had really good things to say. But then there were some others who, you know, said like, oh, I agreed with what Vadim had to say, but he seemed like really shaky and nervous. He was pandering to the crowd. And I didn't give a fuck what the crowd thought. Like, I did not give a fuck. And I didn't feel nervous. Maybe I just like exude that energy or something. Like, I don't get, maybe I'm being too.
I completely disagreed. You seemed very confident. You seemed very okay with what you were doing, what you were saying. And yeah, it just didn't look like that to me at all.
Yeah, maybe
I'm biased because we're friends. So
yeah, or maybe these people are just kind of buying into. I mean, like it's a little hard when you see 4-on-1, and then you also hear the audience, and you know there were certain points. Maybe it was just sort of like there were a lot. I was never surprised by what happened, but it was still so fascinating to me. So every now and then I looked out into the audience like, what the fuck? Like, I just do not understand what it's like to be human beings like you, and so maybe they were picking up on moments like that and thinking that I was being nervous somehow. I don't know. I'm overanalyzing.
You did awesome. You really did. You really knocked it out of the park. I don't think that this was the first time I've ever been on stage debating anybody. And but you gave me strength. Like I'm going to be like that. Like that's what I was going to be like.
Compliment. Thank you. Yeah. I think any one of us could have been like, you know, Hitchens level. And when I say Hitchens, I just mean just in terms of what a fantastic debater he was. I think any one of us could have like reached that level of virtuosity debate wise, and these same people would just be like, SJW, libtard, idiot. Yeah. You know, it really doesn't matter. Yeah, but yeah, it's still a lot to process. I'm still kind of wondering. I want to do a follow-up video on all of this, but you know, I talked with Greg afterwards, and we said that we would both make responses and not throw each other under the bus, and really make it an attempt to kind of like get at the heart of what each other was saying. Now, I'm going to also, you know, I have a lot of things to cover besides specifically what he was saying, but it's sort of like, I don't know, as I've been thinking about it, it feels like just throwing myself in the line of fire again, you know? And because I know that at the end of the day, I can make these excellent arguments, and he has a huge channel, and those people are going to come over, and those people are, you know, they might unsubscribe. There might be some people who, I feel like I've lost most of the people who would unsubscribe through like being dragged through the mud by both Sargon and Carlton T and some others. But yeah, it's like, again, I want to discuss these things very candidly, yet I don't, you know, like this is how, for the most part, I make a living. I do a little bit of other stuff on the side, and I do have some sort of, you know, a little bit of it's a little bit of a quandary, kind of sometimes trying to figure out exactly how far do I stick my neck out. And I mean, I guess I just need to go for broke and just do what I is really in my heart. And I honestly, like, for a while now, because I know that I had a perception of being like a shitlord, and part of that was part of that was just kind of how I fell into like this group of people that and people just thinking that I was that way. But then, you know, there are possibly some things that videos that I made that would give people that impression. You know, like there was a period of time, and I think I've discussed this with you guys, but there was a period of time where when those on the social justice side, when people were first talking about all this stuff, and I've always been the kind of person who is very introspective, and I always feel like, okay, like, you know, we should be able to take a look at our own side and discuss the aspects of it that are not, you know, that are either problematic or just, you know, that are not successful in achieving what they want to. And so I didn't even make that many videos, but I made a couple of videos that, you know, kind of made fun of, I mean, I really wasn't making fun of it. I always thought the term SJW was kind of ridiculous. But anyhow, I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I've always really been on the side of, you know, these left-wing issues. I've always had empathy for, you know, kind of like the people who are treated poorly and shit like that. And I sometimes I do wonder, like, is there going to be like, will I be accepted by the left-wing community in general? I'd like to be, and there certainly are some who do, but then I don't know. I sometimes wonder, like, will past things and like just associations that people have with me, if that will stand in the way. I'm just throwing it all out there right now. What do you want to say?
Oh, has anybody ever given you shit for going on the Drunken Peasants?
Sure. Yeah, people have given me shit for that. And I don't really. I do the Drunken Peasants from time to time because now Ben is on there, and I like kind of. I do like talking with a variety of people, so long as they're, like, not completely assholes. But yeah, I've gotten shit for going on the Drunken Peasants. I got shit for doing Mythcon from some people. Not many. I was actually expecting a little bit more of that. I've gotten shit for, you know, I mean, another thing is that a lot of people don't understand the character of Creationist Cat completely. They see Creationist Cat, and sometimes, like Creationist Cat is a bigot. He's a bigot against everybody. And so, like, recently, I did that Blair White video, and there was this, you know, this running thing where I could not explain to Creationist Cat what exactly transgender, you know, what she was. And the whole idea behind that was just that I was, you know, too cowardly to be real with CC because I knew that he's a bigot and I didn't know how to deal with that. So there were some people, I had some lovely people who watched the video and were like, I'm trans and thank you so much. This makes me feel so supported. But then there were other people who watched it, and I don't even know if they watched the whole thing, but they found it, you know, kind of anti-trans, and I felt terrible that they got that impression. But it's sort of like, you know, there's a whole, you know, it's the character, and I never would put something out there like because I feel so much for that community, in terms of what they go through, and you know, life is not easy for them, and the majority of YouTube just shits on them. So I do not want to be that guy that adds to that. So anyway, I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of going blah and throwing all this stuff out there. If anybody wants to respond,
I do want to respond.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have an echo.
Oh, okay. I'll if that's me, I'll mute myself.
All right, so this might be my bitch centricity thing, authenticity, but kind of a bitch thing. But like, I think we have a sort of group here. Like, we have the people that have always been pretty left, and we have a group that has been, has sort of like, and I totally and completely respect what you have done in sacrificing a large portion of your audience and just being like okay with the idea that fuck it, like I'm sorry, I know that this is a part of how I pay my bills, this is a part of who I, you know, what goes forward, but I can't do it if it's not right and if it's not true. And that is amazing. That is genuinely, in this world, amazing, because you're not gonna, nobody is going to give you credit for this, but like literally me and Tim. And we're it. Like, but it is it is courageous, and it is strong, and you should feel proud about it. And then we have people like TMM who haven't sort of like, you've recently sort of gotten into the Jordan Peterson and the Ben Shapiro, and you've always been pro-choice, you've always been pro-LGBT, but you haven't said I'm the SJW person, you know, either. Because that wasn't you. Like, you were doing something different. And just like, you're giving me a look.
Well, I just want to say that I would have weighed in on more of that stuff earlier, and I would weigh in on it more now. But because there are so many people who dogpile you about that, I'm not afraid of that, but I want to make sure that if I'm going to make arguments in favor of that stuff, I want to make the best arguments possible. If I make a bad argument and it gets out there, like if people see bad arguments, then they're going to say, well, this is the caliber of arguments in favor of this position. And I don't want to be an example of bad arguments for those positions. So I want to be very, very careful about how I make those arguments and make sure they are the best I can possibly make them.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree, and I don't think that you've done anything wrong. I hope that it doesn't sound like I think you have. But it's like, from the point of secularism, I feel like there's been different groups, and I think that we're sort of emblematic of different groups, of sort of the group that was always left, but on the other hand, when I first started out, I wanted to be part of the atheist community, and I wanted to be part of that conversation. And it became incredibly clear to me incredibly fast that that wasn't going to happen because of my feminism. So I made the choice to go with my feminism. And figured that was going to be okay. And in this, I don't know if Tim can say it was similar for him or not, or whatever. But then there were a lot of other people. Like, I have conversed with logic and with dark matter and with all these other people at great length. And it would be nice if I could converse with them a little more publicly. Like, if I could get a little access to their platforms to talk about some of this stuff. Like, it's cool that they talk to me one-on-one, but it would also be cool if I could share some of these ideas with them in front of an audience as well. Like, I haven't ever asked for that before. I used to say that I wanted to be Lou Reed. Like, I wanted to be the person who influenced the other people. And it was actually Dark Matter who said to me, but if you were the person out there in front, then couldn't you reach a lot more people? And maybe that's true too. Like, I feel very, and I think Mythcon was part of me looking at that, part of me saying, yeah, is that me? Is that a person that I could be? I don't know. I don't know if that's who I am. I don't know.
So I've been wanting to ask you a question for about 20 minutes, Chrissy. So somebody was saying in the chat that if there was a kind of like secular, place for chatting, that it would be boring because it's all about like the battle and all about the fighting. So I was wondering if you were are you thinking of like some sort of conference, or what are you thinking of in terms of like a space when you say representing certain views or people who are underrepresented? Like, what have you actually got in your mind? Because I think Mythcon maybe realized that secularism and atheism and just like having academics have these lovely discussions is fine, but they wanted to get the bums on the seats and found that appealing to the whole YouTube culture war actually was very beneficial for them. So what were you thinking of, really?
Well, there have been, like, there's Secular Women Works, and there is Skepticon, and what I would say, like, there are a lot of, how do I put this? Like, why couldn't we have a dangerous faggots tour, but not of dangerous faggot? Sorry. I apologize for like, I'm stumbling over the words because it's
faggots. That sounds like a type of bird or something.
I don't say those words. Like, I spent 80s and 90s in a lot of gay clubs, so it's difficult for me to actually say those words. So yeah, I would, but why can't there be a tour of people who want to talk about things like what we want to talk about? And where would that come from, and who would do that? Who would fund that? Because he had the Mercers to fund that. Like, it didn't come out of nowhere. Are you fucking kidding me? No, it came out of money. And like, one of my most recent videos, in fact, my most recent video, which was about platforming, was about the idea that the platforming debate is centered so much around property rights, around who gets a platform as opposed to who gets freedom of speech, that it's kind of like, it gives all the handicaps to the people who don't need it, and the people who need it the most don't get it. And I don't know. I would like to see someone give us a few handicaps here.
But isn't the problem like the audience and getting the views? Because how you get views is you run around in public, interviewing people and strawmanning them, and then somebody throws a drink in your face and it's like a big sensation.
That's not the only way. That's not the only way.
Also, intelligence?
Philosophy Tube has done it, right?
I haven't really watched that channel, but I've heard good things.
They are a good channel, and it's not an easy thing to do, but they've done it. And the only objection to the Sean and Jen, the Philosophy Tubes, people like that, is I really think that there needs to be more of an investment into diversity than there has been. Like, yes, they are right. There are a lot more people that will listen to white men. But I don't think that that is something that we should be continuing in the way that we look at how we do our things. Like, I think that we need to be saying, look, there are just as intelligent people. Lady Columbia is an exceptionally talented and intelligent person.
I know. Yeah, I noticed that about
Ashley, and all these people, they're brilliant. And there's, I just don't see it. I just don't see the investment.
Well, when it comes to philosophy tube, Ollie, he at the very least will talk a lot about. He'll try to center philosophers who are not, cishet white guys. He does talk a lot about more diverse philosophers, at least.
And I thought his talk about what was it? African philosophers was really fascinating. Like, genuinely told me things that I had never known before. So I was really impressed by that. It's just, again, he's sort of the ambassador as a white dude. And like, on the one hand, I get that. And on the other hand, I would like to see like him pushing forward some of these voices.
Yeah.
I noticed that about Cheapo Trap House as well. Like, it seems very male and very white. Like, it's basically like 5 white dudes and then there's like 1 woman who I guess is on there sometimes.
Cheapo Trap House. Oh, sorry. Fuck Cheapo Trap House.
Well,
ugh.
I don't know, but then it's like me and Vadim.
Really?
But you want to start a show with 3 white dudes, so there you go. Anyway, sorry. Fuck Cheapo Trap House.
Yeah, but part of what they do is, you get all these white dudes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna derail this conversation. Are people like begging to get off?
Begging to get off? Begging to get off? No.
Not like
feeling
that.
Pretty relaxed. I'm pretty relaxed right now. I'm not too bothered. I do have to pick up a washing machine soon.
Okay.
That's something.
But no, really, a lot of times these groups aren't really thinking about how to.
Vadim was chatting, but he was muted. So
yeah, now I'm unmuted. I realized that I was unmuted. that I was
talking
muted.
away. All right, sorry, Chrissy.
All right, I'm going to tell a stupid story. This is a stupid story I'm going to tell, okay? So I was working in this sort of human services field, right? And our boss came up with this idea, one of those dumb ideas that bosses come up with, that they're going to increase everybody's morale. And it was a thank you board, right? And everybody was supposed to sort of put little things up on the thank you board.
Sounds like
if somebody
out of the office.
Right. Like if somebody emptied a wastebasket, or if somebody did something nice that they didn't necessarily have to do, wasn't necessarily their job title to do it, you'd put a little something up on the thank you board. Lovely. So like a couple of months go by, and this boss, who was a woman, said, I'm going to let all the men go, and I want to talk to just the women. And so we were like, all right. So we're all sitting there, and she says, so, thank you board. Only the women post on it, and they only thank the men.
Seriously?
Yes. And it was sort of one of those, it was a light bulb moment in my life, because I was like, oh shit, she's right. I have literally thanked men for doing all kinds of stupid random things that women do every day, and I never once thanked the women. And we're all staring at each other, sort of realizing that this is a thing that we never meant to do, but we've been doing, right? And she's like, so what is this about? And we're all looking at each other. And finally, this other woman, her name was Kristen, says, we don't need thanks. We're just going to do the right thing. It's men who need the thank you.
I held the door for you.
And it's like,
thank me.
And it's kind of like you're sitting there going, oh my God, do I think this? Is this something that I believe? Like, because I've literally been doing this. And the men aren't thanking anybody. And it's like, oh my God, what is going on here? Because prior to that, I would not have considered myself a person who had sort of internalized this shit. But clearly I had. Like, without even knowing it, without thinking about it, without realizing it, we all had. And, like, the evidence was right there. And it was like, oh dear God, what are we going to do from here? Like, to me, that was what I was thinking. Like,
you could have a male and a female thank you board. Just like separate them out, and then you could put them side by side and compare. It'd be like the public shaming, you know. Man.
Christy, I wanted to say earlier, I thought I was on unmuted earlier, and I started talking about it, but what you were saying earlier, just about, I would love to see more voices that are not represented on YouTube. And I think part of the reason why we don't see them is because, there are a lot of people who are reluctant to come on because they see this whole culture of, or block of anti-SJWs that they fear will just shit all over them once they start making videos. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so that's just really, it's really funny because they talk about free speech and whatnot, and they don't realize so many ways in which their actions, maybe it's not intentional, but they really do have the effect of just quelling people's voices. And that's really unfortunate. I would love to see more of those people. And I've seen people who come out with 1 or 2 videos, and it seems like they're interested in doing that, and then they get the bearing treatment or something like that, and then they're just gone, And so many people, I just assume. I've actually read in comments people saying things of that sort, saying that they would like to, but they just expect that treatment. So that's really unfortunate. And again, this is part of why I wish, certainly if I had a larger platform, CC is a decent sized platform. Unfortunately, my videos take a very long period of time to take. Like if I was like a Sargon who could put out like 16 videos a day, then I would be like championing a lot of smaller YouTubers. I want to start doing, aside from our podcast where we talked about how we'd each podcast we'd mention at least one YouTuber that we think deserves a shout, who doesn't have much of a following. Aside from that, I want to start doing streams on my own. Maybe Vadim streams, if that's not insanely corny.
Stream of Vadim.
Yeah, to the extreme. But
the stream? No. Okay.
I'm open to different titles, folks.
We're all bad at coming up with titles.
I'm just saying that, I'm on the same page with you, and I think that there's a reason why we don't see it, other than the fact that there. I think that there's a reluctance to do it because of the atmosphere that we have on YouTube, unfortunately. I do want to say, like I'm cool with talking a bit longer, but we've been going close to what, 3 hours? And
yeah, I was about to say that we should probably start wrapping it up, eh?
Yeah. Can I say one thing real quickly? Because
no,
it's backtracking. It's backtracking, but Messianic Manic asked about DP, about drunken peasants. And I was on that there. What a lot of people don't realize is that, and I'm not saying that they were like champions of social justice by any means, but they changed a good deal. They used to have, and also The Amazing Atheist, even though that he had put out lots of stuff that I'm sure people had legitimate problems with, like he did videos on the Trayvon Martin situation. He did videos on the injustices in Black communities. He did do videos on those topics, maybe not a shit ton of them, but he made them. And there were videos on, or sentiments expressed on drunken peasants early in the day that were also in line with things like that. And they made a really sharp turn, like around the time, it was really around the time that TJ made an apology to Devin Tracy, of all people, and kind of started making videos that were somewhat sympathetic to some of, in my opinion, the absolutely garbage arguments that he made. So yeah, around that time, there was a real shift in their material, and it became like super anti-SJW. And at around that time, I didn't really want to have much to do with it. So, there was, I just wanted to point out that like it wasn't always what it became. And I'm not saying that it was like, like perfect by any means. It problematic in a whole shitload of ways, I'm sure. But anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. That's really all I had to say about that.
Can I say that someone came up with the cream of Vadim?
Vadim cream.
Actually, Vadim cream was my, and I'm not even kidding. Usually people say this as a joke, but that really was my nickname in college.
Was what?
And the way that happened was when you're a freshman at the college that I was at, you'd have to do because I was in a drama school, and you'd have to kind of for both seniors and juniors, you'd have to like do kind of behind the scenes stuff, like costume work and stuff like that. And I was doing Three Musketeers. I was doing costume work on Three Musketeers, and they liked me. Like I got along with the guys really well. And there was this intercom system, and what that every room could hear backstage. And one day they got on the intercom, and this guy Avery said, "Got embarrassing stains? Static Cling got you down? Try New Vadim cream." And they had this whole like spiel that was, it was like a whole commercial. I can't remember it all. It was like 40 seconds long. And then at the end of it, they all harmonized together and said, Vadim cream. And so that just stuck. For like, people wouldn't just call me Vadim cream. They when they saw me, they'd go, Vadim cream. And so, yeah, it was kind of an unfortunate nickname that just stuck. And
so that's the new name for your stream channel.
Yeah, actually, Vadim cream before it was my human channel, which I don't use that often, was Darth Vadim. It was actually Vadim cream for a little while. Fun fact.
You can go back to roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
The cream of Vadim streams.
Anyway, so we will work on building our own lefty conference that will crush Mythcon. I'm pretty sure Chrissy is going to be in charge of that, so it'll be a lot of organizing to do. But yeah, good luck with that. And if I help, I expect a thank you. So,
on the board.
Totally.
Timmy should come up with a podcast that's like a left-wing version of the Drunken Peasants.
the sober peasants.
Sure.
If we do, gotta invite Sargon and get him on a panel with like David Pakman, Kyle Kalinske, and and somebody else who's going to kick his ass. And
Christy Winters.
Yes, and Christy Winters.
Yeah,
she's an excellent debater.
Moderated by Cenk Yuga.
Yeah, see how you like it, asshole.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, it's
any
fun
wrap-up
chatting,
thoughts
guys.
for people? Any wrap-ups?
Oh, I wanted to apologize to Vadim because when I first met him, I think he was having a conversation with the people who were organizing Mythcon, and I totally interrupted it. I was kind of like, Vadim. And later I realized that I had done that, and I'm like, sorry, Vadim, that was rude.
It didn't come across rude at all.
Disgusting.
I don't worry about it.
How dare you? And Chrissy, I've been talking to the Mythcon Milwaukee guys about going on their podcast. Whenever I mentioned going on with you,
I hear that might happen next Wednesday. We'll see.
cool.
I think that's a good idea because those guys, they can talk and they can really they definitely. It was difficult to get a word in edgewise when I was talking with them as little old me. So the two of you together, I think, would be a good power couple.
Maybe it's just 3 people interrupting Chrissy instead of 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, folks.
You know I love you. You know I love you, Tim.
Do I
Yes,
really?
you do. You do.
Yeah, I
You
do.
do.
Okay.
Shout out to Messianic Manic's Chewbacca hoodie there. That's pretty sweet.
It's a onesie.
Cool. So thank you very much. This has been a rare stream from me because I haven't streamed in an extremely long time, and I guess it's good to do a very epic one when I finally do one. So thanks very much for watching. I think we have deconstructed Mythcon as far as possible. See you on the road next year for Mythcon Road Tour, the re-mythening. Okay, bye.
Later.